The spotlight's a waste of time, bro. Check, I can't even shine the other side of the dam. Sorry? Yeah. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our pre-drive before the main show. I hope you are all doing well wherever you may be in the world. And we are going to be looking around this week and seeing what we can find, aren't we, Vildi? We're going to try to see if we can find the royal family. What do you think, Vildi? Alright, I think so. Last night, Shongile gave us the slip on foot, and she was teasing us with her tracks into twin dams, and so I'm going to head straight back there so we can settle the score, be able to find her again. Now, I know some of you have let us know that Tingana, a big male leopard, walked across the dam wall and was heading towards twin dams, but the guys have found his tracks already, so that's quite good. And those tracks are heading west now towards Vuurtela access side. So I think Byron, who's also out here, is going to follow up on those and see where they lead him to. The problem with Tingana, if it was at 3 o'clock in the morning, in all likelihood he's probably already in the northern Kruger, the way he likes to walk. So could be anywhere at this stage. He's one of those leopards that doesn't sit around for very long periods, likes to walk very far. So if you get onto tracks of him, it's always worth just looping all the way around each sort of area and trying to get to the boundaries to check that he hasn't crossed out, because generally he's on a serious mission at night and he moves very, very far. So hopefully he's still around. It'll be nice to find him this morning. I wonder if he's here in response to Mvula being around and sent out. Although I suppose Mvula hasn't been calling, which if Tingana hasn't walked the same route that Mvula has, he wouldn't even know that he's been here. If he called, then it's possible. I mean, I haven't heard any calling leopards from the camp, but that's not to say that it hasn't happened. Last night was sleeping a little bit like the dead would sleep. There's not very much happening from my side, so it could have been calling last night. I'm not sure at all. Well, lots of dung for elephants down the road. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day though. We've got a clear sky once again, so it's going to be a fairly chilly start like it was yesterday morning, and then it's starting to already clear up on the sun's starting to come up on that eastern horizon. So I think we're going to be in for much the same kind of weather that we had yesterday, which was cool to start, but then very pleasant through the rest of the day. I wonder where little Shongile is at the moment. I'm sure she's hoping that they're going to be at Twin Dams, just sleeping there. It's been so little seen of them in the last few weeks that it would be really nice just to get a pleasant surprise and spend some quality time with those two little hooligans. And now Lou is just telling me in my ear that it's 21 degrees and 76 Fahrenheit, so it's not too bad this morning. It's actually a little bit warmer than it was yesterday morning. Yesterday morning when we were driving, it was really quite cold to start the day. It was very, very chilly. The hands were getting cold on the steering wheel, so it feels already much better today. And like I say, if that wind doesn't come up, because yesterday what was making it sort of evening out the temperature was just the wind. If the wind doesn't come up, then we end up with beautiful days. But there definitely is a massive change in the feel of the seasons. Alright guys, we'll see you all a little bit later in the main show.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The beautiful bright star of Venus is looking down on us. It's still very dark this morning on safariLIVE. Welcome, this is safariLIVE.
Ready.
by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Safari Live. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Craig. Now, Tristan, you might have seen already. He's on the other vehicle with VM. And we've got Louise and Megan in final control. It's great to have you with us. We are actually in search of a male leopard. I had tracks of him walking along the road, and I understand that one of our viewers got to see him on the dam cam early this morning at about 3 o'clock this morning. The only thing is I'm worried that he's covered quite a large distance and possibly off the property already. Maybe all the way in Simbambili or Arethusa. But I'm going to have a good look around here. It is still dark, so it is tricky. It's about 21 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. So a nice cool morning. And hopefully we still get quite a bit of movement from these predators this morning. I'd love to find a male leopard. I'm having a careful look. Now there's a lot of elephant dung here and elephant tracks. So that probably would have been from yesterday or last night sometime. So I'm hoping that if we get fresh leopard tracks on top of that, it'll help us gauge when that leopard walked through this area. But I'm going to try very hard to find that leopard this morning. While I do that, let's cross over to Tristan so he can say good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful sunrise safari. And as you can see, the sun is just starting to come up on the eastern horizon and bringing out some beautiful color. Now, as Byron said, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got VM the wildebeest this morning, and we are in search of the royal family. So we're heading down towards Twin Dams, where we're going to try and see if we can pick up any tracks or any sign. We had Shongile yesterday after. Important part of this whole experience is you, the viewers, so we would love to hear from you. Please, if you've got any questions, send through as many as you like to #SafariLive on Twitter, or if you just want to tell us where you're watching from, that's also alright. It's lovely to hear from everybody and to know where you all are and how things are going, and just to get any sort of questions and interactivity is always very nice. So hopefully it's going to be a busy morning. It seems Byron's got those big male leopard tracks, so he's on those, which is great. I'm hoping that he'll be able to catch up with Tingana, because Tingana likes to move quite a bit, so I'm hoping that Byron is able to get around, and he's got those elephant tracks too, which is also quite exciting. So that's already a good start that side. We on this side hopefully are going to find some tracks of our own. I just heard some baboons busy shouting, so I'm wondering if maybe they've seen something. So I'm going to head down towards that area. It was just before we went live that the baboons were shouting, so I'm hoping very much that they have seen something. But it is a beautiful morning this morning. There's very little in the way of, it's not as cold as it was yesterday. Yesterday was really very, very chilly. We were driving along and noses were red. It felt a bit like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it had cold hands. And VM and I were saying it's almost time to get the gloves and scarves out. And this morning it's back to what I would have expected for this time of the year, which is far more pleasant. It really is quite nice this morning, so it promises to be an absolutely beautiful day. Now, if we can just get the play along, that will be perfect. I'm still wondering if there's any sign of Karula, because nobody's really seen her. Everybody keeps telling me that they haven't seen her. So down in the south saying they haven't seen her. They saw her last time, I think it was about 10 or so days ago, or something around that area. And we definitely haven't seen her this side, so I wonder where she's been hanging out. Hopefully she'll be here with them. It would be so nice to come around the corner and all three of them standing in the road again. Right, while we get down to Twin Dams and we go and see if there's any naughty little cats, let's go across to Byron and see what he's doing with his big male leopard tracks.
So, Tristan, I think I'd have to agree with you. I do think this might be the Tingana tracks that I've seen. Just judging by the size, it's a beautiful big male leopard track. And I mean, I'm always hesitant at taking a guess which leopard it is, because in my experience, lots of leopards move through areas very, very frequently. So I never just assume it's a leopard, but leopards are territorial, and in this territory, I've seen the Tingana move through this area a few times, and especially along this route. So I do think it is him. But as we know, he does cover a large distance very quickly. And I've lost his tracks. They've gone off the road, but they were heading in a westerly direction. So I'm hoping that we get some bit of luck this morning. But again, it's tricky in the dark, and then also having to use the spotlight. Brian, you want to know, how do I know there are fresh tracks? Well, Brian, we drove along that access road last night, and those tracks are on top of our vehicle tracks, and I can see there have been other animals that have been moving through the area or over that road during the course of the evening. Some elephant tracks, and those leopard tracks are on top of those tracks. So that's the easiest way to tell if those tracks are fresh, if they are on top of other animals, and also that track is very, very clear track. But the best sign is to see if it is on top of other animal tracks that may have been moving through the area during the course of last night. So those are fresh tracks. They are the ones from that male leopard that came from the Juma Dam, or from the camp. Guaranteed it is him. But it is tricky, Brian. Occasionally you may have especially in winter, some of the tracks seem a lot fresher for longer, because there's not as much wind. They don't get disturbed as much, so you do have to be careful. And summer, there's often wind or a bit of rain or moisture that covers the tracks. The tracks form a crust a lot quicker, almost like a little crust on the sand, so the track is a lot harder, and if you touch it you can actually feel the difference. But winter it doesn't happen as much, so the tracks may seem fresher for longer, but that's when you just have a look at what they've stood on or what's walked on those tracks around the area. That's the best way. Hang on. Let's just listen for a second. Now there, Franklin, alarm calling off to my left. Do you hear that? Let's just have a good look around here. I mentioned it yesterday too. While you're driving, especially when the bush is so thick, you have to rely on your sense of hearing as well as your eyesight. I mean, you can't just rely on your sight to find animals. Listen out and see. Maybe you find something wandering through the bush. Let's just listen again. Can you hear that? Something's disturbed those, Franklin. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can actually just drive off it and into the bush there a second. I'm just going to reverse. Give me 2 seconds. But stick with us. Let's have a look and see what we can find around here. This is always exciting. Aaron, I don't know. It's quite a difficult one to answer. I'm not sure if we see more animals in the morning or evening safari. It depends. It varies a lot. Franklin seemed to have kept quiet now. I wonder if they weren't. Perhaps Franklin's trying to mate. Well, let's have a look here. See, the grass is so long at the moment, it's difficult to navigate because you have to be so careful of branches and logs that are around here. No, but now the Franklins seem to have kept quiet. So perhaps they were just having a little go at one another. I'm still going to have a good look here. So Aaron, I think, generally what I've found is the predator activity in the morning is a lot better because they do move around and you do often bump into them on the roads. But yeah, I don't know. I think general game in the afternoons is always a lot easier because they tend to move towards water during the course of the day, especially in the heat of the day. Okay, let me try get out of here quickly. While I do that, let's head back to Tristan and see if he's had any luck on his side.
Well, we're also following up on some of our alarm calls of our own, Byron. So you've got the Franklin's alarm calling, and we've had the baboons alarm calling just north of Twin Dams. So I'm trying to check in the Mulawati to try and see any sign of Twin Dams. So there was no signs there, but I'm sure there must be a leopard here somewhere. I found any tracks here. The baboons really quite a bit, and they were shouting just to the north of us here. And like I say, we had tracks for Shongile last night, so I would imagine somewhere in here is where they've got to be. It's just a matter of finding them. The problem is that it's still very dark and gloomy, so seeing tracks is not easy at all. So we've got to kind of keep our wits about us and look and see very carefully where we're going. Just trying to check along the riverbed here, seeing if there's any sign of her. Now, wherever she may be, or wherever this animal may be, so there we go. Sorry, I was battling a bit with my comms, but Sri, you're wondering how early we wake up to do our sunrise safari. Well, it depends on the individual, Sri. Some of us get up earlier than others. I generally try and wake up at the moment at about 20 past 4. That means that it gives me enough time to get going in the morning and get myself sorted out and, be able to have a cup of tea and kind of have a slow start to the morning and actually wake up. Some of the other guys sleep a little bit longer. Some of them will be up at 20 to 5, quarter to 5, and then we're on the vehicles at about 5 o'clock. Well, not on the vehicle, but we're busy checking, making sure the vehicles are all in good condition, so we make sure that their tires are all in proper condition. Oh, let me just go around. I think this is where our baboons are, Liam. So this is where our baboons are. Now I want to see, quickly, just careful your head, Viam. Let's just check up in this tree. There we go. The baboons are here. Now they're quiet at the moment.
So I'm still in search of any leopard tracks around here. But it seems like there's a lot going on at the moment. Tristan's got those baboons alarm calling. And then we had leopard tracks earlier. So the animals are out here. We just need to find them. We just need to have a bit of luck on our side. I'm going to check the boundary road between Arathusa or Simbambili, Arathusa and us. Oh, there's an elephant. That's what I heard. I thought I heard something. It's an elephant straight ahead. Oh, big bull. Wow. He's magnificent. Look at that. He is in a bit of must. Could just see him sweating from his temporal gland. Let me try reposition. And then what we'll do is we'll head up this road and have a look for this leopard. Perhaps the elephant can give us a hand at letting us know where he's gone. He's actually just hiding behind the tree now. Monotonous larks calling again. It's always great to see these big bulls, but he is hiding a bit from us at the moment. Can hear the curry chain button quails calling at the moment. That woo, woo. I think, let us, you know what, while it's still very early, I'm going to leave this elephant bull and I'm going to continue the search for this leopard, because I'm hoping we get him while he's still moving around. And so let's try that. Now, I received an email from a viewer yesterday, and this, just out of interest sake, I'm not saying they're right, I'm just saying let's, we always have to question ourselves. And so they said that perhaps the animal that Taylor saw the other day was a serval and not a caracal. Now, Taylor saw it properly, I believe. So they just said by the screenshots, it looks like they could see some markings on the body. So I don't know. I need to have a look at those screenshots again. But I do think it was a caracal. I don't think it was a serval. I think Taylor has seen enough caracal in her lifetime to know the difference, especially. So I'm definitely just going to have a look at those pictures again. But I've felt that, whenever we get emails and that from viewers, we always try. A lot of elephant moving off to the left through the thicket. It's very thick at the moment. You can't see them, but I can hear them breaking branches. So as I was saying, just it's always nice getting feedback from viewers, and we often make mistakes out here. It's not and that's part of guiding. You make mistakes, but the best thing is you just correct it. I'm not saying, but I don't think it was a serval. It was definitely a caracal that Taylor saw. She knows the difference. She had a good view of it. So, but I thought I'd bring up the email anyway. I think we're starting to get enough light now. Maybe I don't need the spotlight anymore. Now, Sharon, let me show you a picture quickly. The difference between a caracal and a serval. They're both cats. They're both part of the cat family. There we go. Actually, it's great. They've got them on the same page. There we go. Look at that. So the serval is hang on. Can you see with that light? There we go. Is that better? So the serval is this beautiful cat at the top, beautiful markings. See that? Also large ears, but not nearly as pointed as the caracal. Caracal, also they're roughly the same size, actually, the caracal and the serval, more or less. That's that beautiful caracal. But they've got those long pointed ears. No markings on the body though. So roughly the same size. But they are very, very beautiful. Both cats. I've only ever seen serval. I've been fortunate enough to have some great sightings of serval. But only a few times, not often at all. I've never seen a caracal before. So Taylor was very lucky to see the caracal. And what are the chances? Taylor worked in an area known as down in the Eastern Cape, so the southeastern part of South Africa, where you do get a lot of caracal, and she's seen plenty of them. So I do think I need to make a trip down there into that area and try and find a caracal for myself. Okay, I'm going to double check this boundary road to see if this leopard hasn't crossed out already. While I do that, well, let's see what Tristan is up to.
Well, we're still on the lookout for any signs of these leopard tracks and to see why these baboons were shouting. Unfortunately, we had a little technical glitch, a little gremlin in the Mulawati, so I do apologize about that. But I was sitting with the baboons and they were all facing southwards, so I've just come round now out of the Mulawati and we're heading back down towards the south to try and see. The problem is the baboons are right on the top of a very tall jackalberry, so from there they will have a massive view and their eyesight is really good, so they could be seeing leopards that are way in the distance, and that's why they were shouting. So I'm hoping that they are on our side, but they could potentially be in Little Gowrie. It's not far from Little Gowrie, and that is where Hosanna was yesterday afternoon, so hopefully it's that they are coming this way and that they are moving. But when baboons start shouting at leopards, then generally leopards will turn and move the opposite direction. They don't like dealing with baboons, particularly two young leopards. They don't have the confidence to be able to know that they can dominate baboons, and I've actually seen many a leopard being chased by baboons, particularly females. The males tend to get away with it. Once they get a bit older and bigger, then the baboons tend to leave them alone because of the size of them. But the females, the baboons as a troop, and all those big males that are within the troop are able to actually dominate leopard quite a bit, and they chase the female leopards and can be very dangerous towards younger leopards, even the ones that are the size of Shongile. So hopefully that's not going to deter them from moving towards where we are. Now it's going to be interesting to see where Tingana ends up too. Saraya, you're wondering if there's any chance that Shongile or Sana has gone independent, either one of them? No, I don't think so. They were on a carcass with Karula about 2 weeks ago, so I don't think they've gone independent yet, and they are still mostly seen in the south at the moment where they have been located. They've been together, so they're still with one another. Karula might be starting to now wean them off and try and sort of not spend nearly as much time with them in sort of preparation for what she's going to do and to carry on, but I don't think she's left them just yet. I think she's potentially starting to mate again, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to leave them just yet. Salahesh, the female in the west, I watched her. She, even with her cub Tiani, her latest one, she mated I think 3 times over a period of about 4 months before she actually left Tiani and left it to her own devices. So it just depends on the female, but I don't think so. No, I think that's, yeah. So VM's also saying that he can smell leopard urine, and I can too. So I'm trying to see if there's any tracks. The only tracks that I've found so far are for hyena, but maybe VM, you can see that side for me. Anything your side, VM? Now, yeah, hyena is the one we've got as well, VM, on this side. So it could be, I know Janet's urine also smells very similar, so it could be that, but never know. It's always good if you smell that smell just to listen, to be able to watch and look carefully. Now the smell that we're talking about is a very distinct smell. It's got the smell of almost like a buttery popcorn. I know that sounds really weird, but it's how it does smell. So when you pick up that scent, it's always good to check, and generally with that scent you know that it's fairly kind of fresh, because the scent doesn't last for hours and hours and hours. It's normally just for that night and early part of the morning, and then it's gone, unless it's been done right now during the day. If it's during the day, it would have to be within the sort of 10 minutes, and that urine is still actually wet, that you'll be able to smell it very strongly. So I mean, it could be a leopard, it could be a genet. I know the genets do smell exactly the same, so, but we shall keep an eye out for whoever it may be. So So far, no sign of anything down on Cheetah Cut Line now. So we're going straight south to Cheetah Cut Line, then we're going to go back down Gowrie Main towards Twin Dams and try just close this whole section off and see maybe if they are still here. I would imagine though that if they are not anywhere near this area, sorry, I just want to check these tracks, and those are hyena tracks again. So hyena have been all over the place recently. I mean, their tracks are always everywhere at the moment, so interesting to see. Now these tracks are only going north. I was thinking maybe that they could be coming from the den and maybe Gwen is back at her den, but that would mean that we would probably have tracks that go back and forth. So you wouldn't just end up with a situation where you've got tracks going one way, your tracks would go both ways because she would have gone out and then come back again. So the fact that the tracks are not leading back towards the den means that this was just a hyena that was walking and looking for any signs of anything to eat during the night. No leopard tracks coming out there, Viam. I think let's go back to the main road and just check very, very carefully. When we came on the main road earlier, it was so dark, it was difficult to see tracks. Even with the lights that we've got, you need a little bit of sort of light to come from quite a height to give you a bit of contrast. And it really becomes very difficult. You can see now the road almost looks very smooth. Even if I stop, it's quite tough to see any sort of definition in the road. Normally, if you're driving and the sun comes up, then you can actually see the tracks quite easily, even of the vehicles, and now they're a little bit obscured. As we go in with the camera, it becomes a little bit easier to see detail, but from where we're sitting, it's a little bit tougher, so you've got to really look quite carefully as to what you're doing and where these tracks go, and if there are in fact any tracks at all. Our ever-present monotonous lark calling away in the distance. They've been non-stop the last few weeks. I wonder when they're going to leave. It's an interesting one. Maybe we should, amongst us, have a guess. I'm going to go 10th of April they're going to leave. What do you reckon, Viam? Viam hopes tomorrow. And that's because they call all night long and they keep some of the guys awake. So, well, I don't think they're going to leave tomorrow, Viam, but let's see. And let's find out from Byron and Craig what they think. But I'm going to go 10th of April that the monotonous larks will be out of here, unless we get more rain. If we get more rain, then I'll have to readjust. But for now, that's going to be my call. Melissa, very good question. You're wondering if birds in the area do an alarm call at us, or do they only alarm call for predators? Well, no, they do alarm call for us. So rattling testicular is probably the best example of this as you walk along. And it's probably the first bird call you learn as a guide, because there we go. It's calling there. There it is, sitting on top. You see it there, Viam? So this small little tree here, just on top with this little stick there. There it is, on the top right of that bush. There we go. So there's our little rattling testicular, the bird we were talking about right now. These guys, when you start walking, as soon as you walk anywhere near them, they start to make this alarm call and this zitting and lots of chirping at you. And so you learn their call probably quicker than all the others, because you pretty much get it rammed down your throat all day long. And so they definitely alarm at us. There are other birds that do it too. I've heard francolins doing it. When you walk and you disturb a francolin, it flies up and it makes that alarm that Byron was alluding to earlier with the leopard. So there are a number of birds that do it. So now, the reason why they do it is because you're disturbing their area and you're flushing them out, so they feel like they're being chased. It's not that we actually have preyed upon them in any recent history, although back in the day we used to. So if many years ago, before there was things like shops, birds were part of the diet. And funny enough, it's an interesting thing that they used to do. Now, Byron last night had a garden orb web, and that garden orb web spins that massive web, and so do the golden orb webs. It was a beautiful lilac-breasted roller. Are you going to land right here for us? A bit difficult because of the light, but there he is. Sorry, Viam. Not in an easy place at all. It's just hidden by those branches, but you can see a little bit of the coloration underneath, and it got itself a little insect, and that insect just got devoured. Now the problem is if I start, it might fly away, but let's see. Let me try and see if I can get us into a little bit of a better position so you can see it. No, there it goes. Sorry, I knew that might happen. Ah, there we go again. So nicely out in the open now. Now you can see those colors beautifully. Those deep blues on the edge of the wing, the turquoise around the rump, and then that lilac breast. Just absolutely beautiful birds. Can you also hear the button quails? So the button quails are quite numerous at the moment. They are everywhere, and I know Byron managed to actually get one yesterday, which is pretty good. I haven't managed to get one on camera. I've seen quite a few of them as we've been driving along the roads, but I haven't been able to get one on camera. So for him to get one was very good, very, very good. Now, I was talking about our garden orbs and golden orbs. They build these massive nests, or webs, should I say, and you'll find that the people back in the day, when they were hunting and looking for birds, what they used to do is they actually used to try and chase birds towards sort of well-known prominent nest websites, so that these birds would fly and they would actually get stuck in the web, and then it would be much easier for them just to come and grab the bird off the web. And it's a pretty incredible and ingenious way of hunting. There's very little effort that's involved in that, and it's amazing that the spider's web is strong enough to trap these small birds and be able to keep them within their grasp and be able to, you know, even I've seen some of them try and feed off birds, so it's pretty insane. But back to the original question, yes, the birds do alarm call. It does quite a lot. In the vehicle, not so much, but on foot, massively. We get alarm called at all the time when we're on foot. Gar, all the way from London. Well, Gar, I hope it is getting a little bit warmer. I know you're coming out of your winter, so hopefully it's getting a little bit warmer. You're wondering if bird or animal alarm calls differ depending on the predator. Well, they do indeed. Sorry, I was just checking these tracks. These are all for hyena. They do. It depends on the predator, especially in things like monkeys. So monkeys have probably the widest vocal array in terms of predators, and I've spent time with some trackers that actually are able to hear the difference. Now, for me, it's almost impossible. I can't tell the difference between the different alarm calls, but some of the guys I've worked with know, and they'll say the monkey is shouting about a bird of prey or a snake or a leopard or a lion, that they have little slight variations in their tone. So yes, they do. Birds, not really, so it depends on the bird. I mean, drongos have quite a wide vocal array, so they might change theirs according to the predator, but most of the birds really only have one kind of alarm call, which is generally a harsh sort of shrill, we call it spishing, so they like that kind of sound that the bird makes, and lots of bull clapping, and that's normally a sign of a predator. But it might change according to the variation of those bars, according to if it's a cat or a bird from the air, and they're able to then work it out. In terms of the other mammals, so the antelope species, no, they don't have a variation. I've never heard a variation between the call of an impala for a lion or a leopard. It just sort of, they get a lot more sort of, what's the word for it, a lot more intense when they are alarm calling about certain species. So you find with wild dog, they hardly do it because they just try run to get out of there. But with lion and leopard, it's a very intense, rapid call. So just depends in that way, but probably the best example would be the monkeys. They really do have different calls for each animal. Right, we're carrying on looking. We're still trying to find any sign of these naughty cats, and while we're doing that, let's go across to Byron and see if he's had any luck with Tingana that is better than ours.
No luck just yet, and we've looked, I've searched high and low. I've been checking these roads carefully, or as carefully as I possibly could. I don't see any sign of this male leopard, so I wonder if he hasn't just disappeared into a block somewhere and is maybe hiding there. But I did hear Herbert just called me on the radio and said that he could hear a leopard calling. It sounded like down in that area of Twin Dams. Now that is where Tristan is, so hopefully he has a bit of luck with leopard. But I'm not going to give up just yet. I'll keep checking this area carefully. You never know. I'm now right on the northern boundary, our northern boundary, so the Buffelshoek cut line. Just having a look around here, see if there's anything. Also any sign of the Nkuhuma pride. Haven't seen them for a while. Are situated in the Greater Kruger National Park. We are basically, this area that we are in is the southwest part of Kruger. The Sabi Sand Game Reserve now gets its name from being situated between two main rivers. The Sand River, which basically runs through the central part of the reserve, and the Sabi River, which is right southern bound, and that runs in to look at Kruger. If I can explain it like this, Kruger is shaped, it's a long game reserve, and right down, probably around about here, so if Kruger runs like that, joined down in the southwest, this section over here is the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, and we are kind of northeastern part of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, right up the northern section in Djuma. That's where Djuma is. But it is all is completely open, so the animals can move freely wherever they like. Tristan and get a
Well, still no sign of any of these kitties. I don't know where they are or what the baboons were shouting at. Although Herbie said to me now, Herbie is just getting going for the bushwalk, and he said he heard a leopard sawing around Chelapan, Twin Dam area, which would make sense because these baboons were alarm calling, but we haven't seen any tracks yet. We can't find any tracks of this cat anywhere, so I'm just going slowly. Hang on. What was that? Just want to check here. It looked like there might be a track. Just need to get a bit more light. It looks like a Shongile footprint, doesn't it, Viam? Or is that a baboon? Could be baboons. There's baboon tracks everywhere in here. It's just difficult to see. But yeah, it look like baboon tracks, all of them. Indeed they are. So that's baboon, so we can forget about those. Now I'm coming back and just retracing my steps up Twin Dams, because if Herbie can hear a leopard calling, it must be here somewhere. Now it's just a case of getting onto the right road or the right place, and maybe even switching off at Chelapans and listening. That will give us a better idea of where this leopard could be. Now, and the problem also is that if it's not on the road, so if it's Karula moving around in these thickets, it's really going to be very, very tough to find her in this, because it's going to be long grass. So what we'll have to do is listen for birds alarm calling, or her maybe vocalizing again, and that will be able to help us determine where she's going and the movement and the direction that she's trying to head. But I definitely have not seen a footprint yet for a leopard in this area. She could also be on the other side of the Mulawati, so it sounds like Chelapan, but it could just be on the eastern side of the Mulawati, which is also a very dense, thick area, so she could also be there. We'll definitely check all of these places and make sure we scour this area as best as we can. I'm not sure that it would be Tingana, because Tingana, at the end of the day, he went, by the sounds of it, the tracks of him went west. So I think that if it is anybody, it's got to be Karula that's calling. Cats, you're wondering how we tell the difference between tracks. Well, each animal's got its own unique footprint, so there's different sort of IDing characteristics for each species of animal, and then within each individual you also find that you get sort of little things that can maybe give it away as to what they are. So I used to see there was leopards that, like Mafufanyan, he used to have a very definite little scar on the bottom pad that was like an X shape, and so when you saw that in the pad, then you know it was him. So things like that. The other thing is what we use is to tell sort of the difference between tracks of the same species. So let's say two different leopard tracks apart would be one of them, so you know that the certain leopards that are with the area, and each of them are going to be of a certain size, so you know that their footprints, after following them repeatedly, are of a certain size, and therefore you can kind of roughly work out who they are. It's never 100% accurate, so sometimes I've been fooled, and because of the substrate, the road surface, it looks maybe like the track is slightly larger or smaller, and that then fools you a little bit, and you end up kind of thinking it's something different to what it actually is. So you've got to kind of pay attention to that, but that's how we generally work it out. We're able to know that males are going to have big tracks and they're going to be territorial, so if you find a big male track, then in all likelihood it's going to be a certain male that you see there regularly. So in this case, this morning, the tracks that Byron was on, it's in all likelihood Tingana. It's also a route that he walks very, very often, so we know that he likes to travel and traverse those areas, so that's why we call it as him. It could be somebody completely different and new, but I would be very, very surprised. Right. Now the sun is starting to rise, it's starting to get light, which is now the perfect time for Miss McCurdy to get out and start her walk. So let's go along and say good morning to Taylor.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome, of course, to Bushwalk. It's myself, Taylor, here today, and then on camera we've got Jandre and Herbie is out and about scanning, keeping us nice and safe. Now, as Tristan just said, it has just become light enough for us to head out onto Bushwalk. It's getting a bit difficult now, but soon the times will be changing, and then we'll be able to go out, well, a little bit earlier, I suppose you could say. But it really is a lovely day, and we're actually just catching the sunrise as it's broken up, coming through the next layer of clouds. So let's have a look at it very quickly before I tell you what my plans are for the day. Have a look just down there. It's really, really beautiful this morning. And I can't imagine what it must have looked like on the top of quarantine half an hour ago. That must have been quite spectacular, seeing the first light. Now remember, this is indeed a live interactive safari, so if you have any questions for us, hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter, whether it's for myself or Tristan or Byron. If you want to send us pictures, that's fine too, but we'd love to have chats with you today, so send on through those questions. Now last night was quite interesting, as I get attacked by flies and have an allergic reaction to the grass. Just have to get lots of marula cambium layer today. Is the elephants were screaming out here on quarantine, this big open area, most of the time last night for at least 2 hours. Don't know what was upsetting them. Early hours of morning, you've already chatted to Tristan about it, baboons alarming. And I've been following the sound of where the baboons have been alarming. So they started about Vuyatela Lodge, then they creeped all the way around towards Gallagher. And eventually it went from baboons, and the impala started alarming, and it's moved all the way along. So I did see the herd of impala that was screaming and shouting earlier. It is down that way. So that's where we're going to be heading this morning. And hopefully we'll see if there was anything moving around. Hopefully we'll be able to find it. It didn't sound like it was too long ago. And of course, we've been chatting about tracking with Tristan, and I think on foot is the best way to do a bit of tracking closer to the ground, easier to see the tracks, and especially with this light that is going to sort of cast beautiful shadows into the track, which does make it a little bit easier to see at times. Oh my goodness, I'm so itchy already. Some of this long grass, and there's a couple of nettles and things still around every now and then, so we're going to actually have a little bit of fun today, and we'll have to play doctor at some point and see which plants work best to stop the itching. And I think it's going to be the marula, to be honest. So we're going to keep searching now. Hopefully we're going to find a couple of tracks, maybe a cat or two. That's a bit ambitious, isn't it? We'll go with it this morning, or a spider. Let's jump back on to Tristan's vehicle.
Thank you, Jamie. Tristan's gone AWOL. He's decided he's not around at the moment. No, I'm joking. So we've had no luck. Yeah. That's just the way it goes sometimes. No luck with finding this man. He's disappeared. What else we find? And maybe he's still around this afternoon. Who knows? I don't know if he's gone off the property. I couldn't see any tracks. Hang on, what tracks are these? Hyena tracks heading down the road. So I'm not sure if he's crossed over onto Arethusa, but there's a good possibility.
Well, welcome back, guys. Sorry about that little technical glitch with Byron. He's saying that he's battling with the leopard tracks, and so are we. We found no further tracks. Even though Herbie heard this animal calling, we haven't been able to find any sign whatsoever. I've driven so slowly to try and check and make sure that there's somewhere there. Maybe she's inside the Mulawati. Hello, little impala. Did you just alarm call? Or did I make that up in my head because I'm desperate to see these leopards? There we go, there's one out in the open. No, they look very relaxed. They're not too worried about life. But isn't that a beautiful male? You're in fine condition, young sir. The males really look really good at the moment because they haven't started their rut yet. So they've been feeding and they've been training and doing some sort of practice runs and clashing horns every now and then. And they really are in the best condition they possibly can be at this time of the year before the rut starts. As soon as the rut starts, they then completely lose focus on what's important, and they try and just chase one another around, and females, and they don't actually focus on feeding very well, and so that's why they end up losing condition, and they become a lot thinner, their necks become a lot smaller. So it's really the best time now, if you want to appreciate a male impala, is at this time of the year. Now, they are looking southwards quite heavily. I wonder if maybe something wasn't a little bit further south. But let's just carry on this road and see. We are in an area where it could potentially, if that leopard could have called. It's very difficult to pinpoint an exact point that a leopard calls when you're far away. So you must remember that Herbie's heard this all the way from Vuyatela, which from here is quite a long distance. So you've got to, I mean, he's giving us a general idea, a general rough area. So we've got to now try and figure out where exactly that is and where this leopard was calling from. But given that the impalas are not that spooked, they're alert because I'm sure they've heard these baboons call this morning. They're not very spooked though, so I don't think that we need to be too concerned about this area at this stage. Had they seen a leopard this morning, they would have, as soon as the car arrived, they would have been really, really on edge. They might even have snorted a few times because they think maybe we're with that leopard. So it does happen that way sometimes. But still no sign in this area whatsoever. Donald, this is so it kind of ties back in with what we were talking about earlier about sort of animal prints or footprints and how we identify them. You're wondering if animals, or let's say these leopards, leave distinct tracks like a fingerprint on a person. Well, yes, they do. Whether or not we can actually see all that minute detail is is difficult to say. There are some trackers that are able to pick those kind of things up. For me, certainly not. I don't see the actual differences between leopard tracks other than the sizes, and maybe if there's a toe that isn't quite right or a lobe that is maybe bigger than another. Those are quite obvious things, but the little sort of cuts and scrapes that are within the pad that sometimes show within a track that some trackers can pick up is beyond my capability, so I'm not able to do that. I just don't see it. But other trackers, like I say, they can show you that there's this little cut which would make it this particular animal, so they really are able to work out. And so each cat, as it's walking and moving along in its life, it's much like us as people, is going to have some sort of damage to its foot. There's going to be little cuts and scrapes that happen, and that will all dictate that that foot then eventually gets some sort of marking on it, and in the track it should be visible on the right kind of substrate. So I suppose, yes, they do. They all have their own unique footprint. Also, the angles of the toes, angles of the lobes, angles of the pad itself will all be different. Right, so Miss McCurdy is out. She's on foot. She's walking. And she says she's got some golden covered animals to show all of you.
We do indeed. It's our favorite herd of wildebeest who are alarming at us at the moment. They don't seem to be too happy with our presence, but that's all right. This is how the habituation process starts. Now, whether we are having an actual impact on these animals, I'm not certain, because there's a couple of members in the herd that are not too sure of me. Most of them didn't even bat an eyelid when we approached this way. But there was, I think, about 2 females with their calves, which will maybe explain it, a little bit more nervous than the rest of the herd. And they darted off from one end back towards the middle of the herd, well, to form a big sort of center, I suppose. And now they've relaxed, though. 1 or 2 shouting, but the rest of them have got their heads down in the grass, munching away. And I'm sure that they are missing their partners in crime, which is the McCurdy herdie, the group of zebra. Because as you all know, zebra and wildebeest have the most divine relationship together, the most amazing symbiosis where the wildebeest will follow the zebra after the zebra have come through and munched up on all the long grasses. But I'm sure they'll be fine. Should we try and go a little bit closer? Let's see. Now, Maria, you've actually asked if there's been any news on the McCurdy herdie. No, there hasn't. I saw a couple of what I thought to be a couple of members yesterday, very early in the morning, just as show was starting. But unfortunately, I couldn't find them again. So I think that they'd just taken refuge in a very thick block. But maybe we'll get them today. We'll just have to have a look, of course. And I don't know where the other zebra is. I'm starting to lose a little bit of hope now, sadly. I think that possibly, and I don't think actually Jean-Andre has seen the images yet of the zebra that was attacked by the lions, and I don't know if it has survived, because I think we would have seen some evidence of it. So whether it was infection, whether it was lions again, whether it was hyena, we don't know until we can find the carcass and have a look at it. But again, we didn't see any activity of vultures, so if it has died and something has consumed it, they did it very, very, very quickly. Because yesterday was beautiful, perfect, of course, weather for all the eagles, for the battliers, the tawnies, and then of course the vultures to take flight and catch the thermals. You see, look at this. So my approach with herbivores, and it's just something that I've learned from, and this is of course my opinion, and everything that we tell you out here, you're basically living through the eyes of the guides. So myself, Tristan, Byron, Jamie, Steph, Brent, you name it. And when it comes to plains game, so just general animals, not big game like buffalo or not wildebeest, I'm trying to say elephants and lions and leopards. The rest of the herd is actually running in at the moment. Don't hide. Because as soon as you start to hide, you're just behaving like a predator. Why are you trying to conceal yourself? What's going on? What's the problem here? So I talk normally, and my normal is shouting for most people. And then I don't hide myself. I make myself standing out in the open so they can see where I am. And then, of course, the most important thing is to try not walk directly towards them. So we've just come a bit closer, and now I'm going to change angle completely. And I'm actually going to head at a 45-degree angle to the animals. And it seems to work quite well already. They're not so bothered by us. So what we'll do is we're going to just hug this tree just over here. Let's walk towards the big marula. And we'll see. They may run. They probably are going to run. They're not quite as relaxed as the zebra herd was. We're really fortunate with something like that. But as long as they keep seeing us on a regular basis, I mean, our goal is not to be able to reach up and touch them. That's not what we're doing at all. We just want them to be comfortable with the presence of humans at a safe distance for the wildebeest, a safe distance for us. So look, there they are. They're standing at us, staring at us. Couple is snorting. Big bull is coming from the back, just keeping watch, making sure that everybody is, well, where he can see them. But you see, they're also watching Herbie from the other direction. This is so beautiful. Now, Brian, you were wondering if animals in this park will socialize with other animals of different species. They do indeed. It's actually very common, and it's a very basic anti-predatory behavior that animals will do. So, a common one is wildebeest and zebra, and then often impala around. But as you know, impala are the most common antelope throughout Africa, so you normally see them with every other animal that you can think of. And it's important safety aspect for the animals. So by grouping together with different species, wildebeest have various senses that are quite good. However, it's always good to have an impala or a zebra around. A baboon, even better, because their eyesight is so incredible and they're able to spot from very, very far distances. You can imagine, that's why I say baboon, because they're the ones that are climbing to the tops of the trees. And we've seen, monkeys giving away leopards' presence at 300, 400 meters away, which is quite phenomenal. So they will indeed. Now you're going to see they're definitely going to run. So what's happened here is this car has one of the game drive vehicles, which is normal. They're coming out on safari. Obviously came around the corner, and the wildebeest's attention was on us because we're the ones on foot. So they weren't paying attention. Now they don't know what to do. And this is the funniest thing about wildebeest, is that they're just going to run and run and run. These guys are not too sure about it. They're like, but what's wrong with just standing over here? Should we run too? Do we need to run? Now they're looking for reassurance for the half of the herd that has dashed off. Sort of going, do we come to you or are you coming back to us? And it looks like they're going to come back and rejoin with the main herd. So again, look at them, there they go. Look at them running. And this part of the herd is not bothered by us. I think it was just the car giving them a fright. Oh, beautiful in that morning golden light. That's really lovely. Oh my goodness, and look how fast they can run. They really, really are quick. This is not even them at a full sprint. They're just slowly moving along as one big herd. You see, the bull is going to come up from the back now, and he'll always put himself between what he thinks is danger and the herd. Hello, guys, it's okay, it's just us. It's just us, so we'll just wait for them to settle down now. It's okay, everybody. Again, they're still moving from the left, moving here to the right. So to me, hi, guys. I don't think they're too bothered by us. This is actually really quite cool, don't you think? And look how many there are of them. Yes, we're here. We're not trying to eat you, I promise you. I think I've now proven this to you on a number of different occasions, particularly in the afternoon, where they are quite relaxed with us. Yes, you can. I promise, if I see a lion, I'll alarm and I'll let you guys know. Don't worry, I've got your back, wildebeest. I won't let a lion sneak up on any of you. I think you guys are too cute that anything like that happens, especially while I'm standing here. I don't know what alarm call I would do, though, because I definitely can't do that snorting sound that is coming out of the wildebeest's mouth. That is a little bit too difficult. We'll leave that up. Actually, I'm sorry, Gendre. As much as I love walking and driving with you, VM does the most amazing wildebeest impression, and remember, he did it the other day and they all started talking back to him. It was really quite funny. And come on, let's hear your go. He is part wildebeest, that's why he lives in a burrow. And well, it doesn't seem like they're going to stick around. Come on, guys, settle. And if they do keep panicking, we'll probably leave them alone. They've obviously been startled slightly, which is fine. It's just one of those things. They are going to see cars and people together often, and there's no need to pressurize them. Not that they're really panicking, and I'm not worried about them doing short little dashes like that. They're not at a full sprint. They're not wasting energy, so they'll be okay. The big bull, he's just coming around the corner now. He's still staring at us, and he's not even alarming. It's actually just the females now that we're shouting about a little bit. But I'm sad. It would have been so nice to have seen the McCurdy herdie and the wildebeest herd together, which I'm sure, if those lions didn't chase our favorite zebras around, probably would have been the case. We could have had some really amazing interaction, I think, with the two different species on foot. Oh, no, they're coming back again now. They're just going up and down. This is really entertaining. Isn't that fun? A bit of GNU fun first thing in the morning. So we're going to keep watching these guys. Maybe they're going to settle down. We don't want to chase them around too much, so we'll hold our position. But let's go across to the funny man, Byron, and remember to ask him for the tip of the day.
Taylor, it sounds like you had a wonderful sighting of those wildebeest running through the long grass there. It's always great seeing those herds, different herds of animals around that quarantine area, the clearings outside of camp. I need to try to get them to change the name. I just don't think quarantine is an appropriate name for a clearing. A lot of, these two larks, monotonous larks just chasing one another. Hang on, one is sitting on the tree. Stay there, beautiful light. It just took off. Monotonous larks everywhere at the moment. Tristan was talking about it too, and I think he mentioned, or he wondered when we think they would leave. No, I don't know. I give it another 2 weeks, I think, and then they might be gone. Tristan said. Been quiet this morning in terms of wildlife. I haven't seen, or larger mammals rather, I haven't seen any. We had those elephants earlier. Times things change, but you never know. We could potentially find a pangolin soon, maybe. Val, if you were here, you would realize why that bird is called the monotonous lark. It doesn't stop; it continues, and it has the same call the entire time. So that's where the name monotonous lark comes from. But they don't stop, and I'm surprised during the evening too. They call constantly, non-stop. I think this is breeding season for them, which is probably why they call so much. Just having a look around here, some beautiful trees. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these trees in the past. There's a beautiful torchwood right next to me, just to my right, or green thorn. A lot of you have seen that. There's marullas. There is another beautiful knob thorn just to the left. That's a big knob. You can see how the bark has been stripped off this knobthorn by the elephant. But it has healed again. You can see how that cambium layer, or the inner layer of bark, has healed slightly, and this tree is still alive and doing well, which is good to see. So the elephant fortunately did not ring bark the tree and cause too much damage. The ring barking is when they strip the bark right around the tree and it eventually dies. Just saw one of those little quails jump up but drop down into the long grass again. I was so excited to see it yesterday. I hope some of you are with us, because not often to see these. Down towards Tristan. Let's head over to Tristan.
Well, we still haven't had any luck with our leopards. No tracks that I can find anywhere. We've looked everywhere, but what we do have is a very pretty red-backed shrike in this beautiful golden morning light. Is that not spectacular? Look at how the red on the back is really popping out. You can see the wings are moving a little bit, And this little bird is all puffed out because it's cold, so it's trying to get a little bit warmer. So they puff their feathers just to trap a bit of air against the body and warm themselves up a bit. But very pretty. Oh, morning. Feel like that for a bird is the way we are when we stretch in the mornings to wake up. Is this exact same as this red-backed shrike fluffing its feathers like that and just ruffling everything up. It's kind of stretching and getting ready for the morning to carry on. Now these guys also won't be here too much longer, although the red-backed shrikes generally out of our migratory birds tend to stay the longest. They're normally the ones that kind of are a bit more tolerant of the change in temperature and the coolness that comes, so they end up staying normally until sort of end of April, sometimes even into May if we get late rains. So we'll still see them for a little bit, but the rest of the migratories definitely are far less than what they were. There's almost no woodland kingfishers to speak of. You don't hear them calling nearly as much anymore, and the cuckoos are all but gone as well. So the migratory birds slowly but surely are disappearing. But wasn't that beautiful in that light? Spectacular. It's always nice to appreciate these birds in beautiful light like that. So like I say, no sign of the leopard at this stage. Oh, hi bacon. I hope I got that right, Louise, but that's what I got from you. That's quite an interesting name, but who doesn't love bacon? Who doesn't love bacon? So, oh, hi bacon. The honey guides are still around. You'll still get greater honey guides in the area. I did hear one calling about 4 or 5 days ago. I heard a honey guide. So there are still some. I haven't seen one though, to be honest, so there is around, but I just haven't seen them for a while, and they'll still be around for a little bit longer. We should still see them for quite a few more days, or weeks should I say. Actually, funny enough, just saw a woodland kingfisher fly away from us too, down in here. But the interesting thing about the woodland kingfishers, in fact it's not a woodland kingfisher, you see it there, Vim, on the other side of the drainage line? I thought it was a woodland kingfisher just because I saw some blue flash across me. It did fly away, didn't it? Oh no. Oh well, it's the way it goes. Birds do have wings and they do fly, so it's honey guide's call. Well, it depends which honey guide we're talking about, but the greater honey guide, which is the one we see the most in this area, it sounds like the following. Hold on 2 seconds while I quickly do this. Where's my bird app? There's my bird app. Greater honey guide. They basically sing a song saying Victor. So that's how I always remember it, is by going Victor. There we go. Okay. So that is the greater honey guide, which is the one we see. And then, like I said, their call goes and basically says Victor, Victor, Victor. And that's how you know it's them. And they're really amazing birds. Now, I have followed honey guide to honey before. It's quite incredible. You think that it's a made-up story and that it doesn't actually work, but it does. I've followed birds, and they've taken you to honey. Now, the trick is, and the belief around this is that a honey guide is a very clever little bird. And so you follow it, and it will call, and it will take you to the honey. And if you go there and you get to the honey, and the bird is there, and you take the honey, and then you go, the next time you come, that honey guide is going to lure you to danger. So it's going to take you to something that is dangerous because you didn't give it any honey. So whenever you get led by a honey guide and you have a honey pot, you take some, you've got to always leave some for the honey guide so that it is able to get its fair share and be able to survive off it, and then it will be your best friend, and it will take you time and time again to different honey hives, or to hives should I say. So that's the belief around it, and I suppose that's a fair enough call. I would also be upset if you had to lead somebody through the bush to this banquet of beautiful honey and then not get anything out of it. So fair on the honey guide then. Right, still no sign of any leopards, no footprints, no further calling that I can pick up, it seems like the baboons have walked everywhere. Everywhere I've driven has just been baboon tracks, so maybe they chased our leopard this morning into some thick bush, and that's why we haven't seen anything. But I am still hopeful. I am still checking ever so carefully, trying to see if there isn't maybe a leopard's going to pop out on top of the tracks of our own from this morning, and so we will keep persevering and trying to see what we can find. I was also thinking that I'm in the area quite close to the hyena den, so I'm going to go just pop in at the hyena den too and just see what they're up to, see if the little ones are out and about in this beautiful morning light. It will be very nice if they are out, because the light will be perfect. It'll hit that den site perfectly, and they'll look very, very cute in that morning light. They tend to get this kind of rim of gold around their sort of darker fur, and that contrast between those lights is very, very cool. So I'm going to try to see if they're there. So talking about golden light and golden animals, I believe Taylor has got some golden wildebeest that she's trying to habituate, and not the blue ones that we're used to.
I suppose, yes, you could call them golden wildebeest at the moment, but they're still the blue gnu. Don't worry about that. They haven't transformed into anything else. But sadly, they're not as relaxed as what they were just a moment ago, but that's okay. So we're going to have one last little view at them, and then we shall leave them alone for the day. But you know who's not frightened? It's actually the bull. He's right here. Oh, look, he's rubbing himself in a mitre drain at the moment. There you go, look at him. And that just shows you how relaxed he is with us. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to rub my face on the ground. And now I'm going to have a dust bath to keep away all of these biting flies. And it's funny how wildebeest will sort of headbutt the ground. And if you're wondering why that is that they've got those massive preorbital glands just below their eyes. And that is one of the main ways that wildebeest will mark territory. So whether they're rubbing their faces on, a tree or piece of grass, but they also put their heads down in the ground just like that. And he's very busy. He's constantly re-establishing his territory, and even just as he's walking through the long grass, he's going to pop up behind the sapple leaf now. There he is they've got something called a pedal gland, which is a gland situated between their hooves. So as they're walking as well, they're also scent marking. And I think that that's quite a nice, unique adaptation. Now, wildebeest, funny enough, have got a very interesting smell to them. And yesterday we were chatting about the smells of giraffe. There we go. Watch him how he marks. He rubs his face in between the leaves, depositing that sticky secretion onto the tree. And also, sometimes it does make for a great scratching post. And you can imagine all the ticks do gather between the base of the horns. There is a section of skin that is exposed. And that must be very, very itchy. Maybe we'll actually go and have a look and see if we can find any of that secretion on the tree. But as I was saying, is that wildebeest have got a strange smell. And of course, as you know, when you go out on a date, whether it be with a lady or with a man, everybody wears cologne or perfume to smell nice. So I wonder if with wildebeest, if that's one of the reasons why they smell like that. Perhaps that burnt butter that has been sitting in the sun for a week, that's the smell that it reminds me of. Perhaps that's enticing to the wildebeest ladies. Me, not so much. Come on, dig, boy. Loosening up the ground again as he scrapes that scent, depositing on the ground. And then I've also read that, that of course, it can act as in the case of, particularly with giraffe, it actually acts as also a parasite repellent. So perhaps that smell has got something to do with the wildebeest too. We'll have to do a bit more research with that. But at the moment, he's just having a grand old time. So we've definitely habituated the bull. But like anything though, stallions, the big wildebeest bulls and parlor rams, they seem to be a little bit more tolerant and less fear in their eyes, if you will. And when you are on walk, like I said, making sure he puts the threat, though he doesn't seem too bothered with us. I think he's realized that we quite are not a threat. We just stand around here, point something at them, and make a lot of noise. Now, Lara, you're wondering if wildebeest follow scent marks for migration purposes. Possibly. I think that's one of the ways. However, a lot of time when they are doing the migrations, there's very little things to scent mark on. It's often dry and quite arid. So possibly with the bulls, They're definitely. However, I do think that there's some sort of memory involved, like we see with buffalo, with the pathfinders, the females that lead the rest of the herds to water, to new grazing areas. I think that some of that information is also being passed down via generation and all together, because of course the boys don't stay with the herd. There's mark and defender territory, but the girls are constantly moving around. So there's definitely, when they're not breeding and they're not necessarily with boys, the females obviously have to take charge. I'm sure within that herd there'll be some kind of matriarchal system. Again, not necessarily as prominent as you see with elephants, for example, or say with lionesses. I think it's obviously very subtle, and you might find one or two of them that have got, well, all this information stored in the back of their brains that allows them to move around and find new areas. Though when it's all green like this, you don't really need to go far. You can just keep moving around in circles, and it's really amazing how the animals naturally circulate areas. And again, that's got to do with the rain that we have had. So the animals are not coming into one spot at the moment and exhausting the resources completely. They're constantly rotating, sort of like what you will do with your stock at home. If you've got horses in a paddock, you keep them in one paddock for a couple of weeks, then you move them to another one, allow that grass to regrow and regenerate, and you just keep swapping them around. And these animals are kindly doing the same thing. But as soon as winter comes around the corner, that type of thing is going to change, because there's less food. They've maybe starting to exhaust the food further down. There's not enough rain to keep regenerating all the fertility in the ground. And, then they stay in areas for longer and longer, and then start moving off once they've completely grazed everything that they can. And often it's normally the vegetation around the watering holes that are the first places to disappear, especially when you're an animal that's water dependent. You don't normally go too far away from water, and they will eat absolutely everything. Isn't that lovely? And I'm glad they've settled down now. They've stopped snorting so much. This is really nice. Now, Tom, you're wondering if a wildebeest will charge you under any circumstances. Of course, any animal out here, a warthog, an impala, even a bird, may bop down and bop you on the head. So you've got to keep your wits about you, and it's very important that you don't put yourself in a silly situation. So don't get in between the herd of wildebeest, because I can promise you that there's actually been many reported deaths of wildebeest attacking people. Not necessarily the females, though I have seen a video where a female wildebeest fought back and tried to save her calf from a leopard. So I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of her. But the bulls in particular can sometimes, and I think it must have something to do, these cases, I don't think they've all happened in particular wild areas like this. I think it's been the odd case of a botfly, unfortunately, the unusual case of a botfly larvae ending up in the brain and causing these animals to go a bit crazy, I suppose you could say. And there's a couple of theories around that, or whether it's just they're too comfortable with people and they now feel as though you're imposing on their territory. And maybe they think you're going to compete for their territory. Who really knows? But be careful. Wildebeest, zebra, same thing. A stallion could run straight up to you and chop you and kick you and bite you, and you'd find yourself in a lot of trouble. It's not just the big animals out here that you've got to be careful of. It's always good just to be respectful of everything out here. We're going to leave these guys now. We're going to carry on and see what else we can find. Tristan has made his way towards the hyena den, and I think he may have a surprise.
Unfortunately not, Taylor. There's very little action going on here. No hyenas, no sort of sign of ribbon or any of the little ones. So, sorry, let me grab those for you. A few spider webs, got to just make sure we get them off the lens. But yes, no sign at the den, which is a pity. It would have been really nice because the light this morning is spectacular. So it would have really been good to have the hyenas out and about. But alas, they are not. Maybe they were out and they've gone back in the time it's taken us to get here this morning. Now, I believe Taylor was chatting about dating advice. Now, I think we've got the most qualified member of the team with us at the moment when it comes to dating advice. So, Byron Sorrell on the other vehicle. I think we all need to ask him what his dating advice. Maybe it can be his tip of his day, as he can tell us about his dating techniques. Because Byron, if you talk to him, is the master of all things when it comes to dating. So it would be interesting to hear his take on what advice we should all be following. Now, hopefully he will have something entertaining to tell us all. Now, it's a bit sad that the hyena den is not active. I was hoping it really would be. I love spending time with those little ones. They are very, very cute, and they're so curious these days. They've got such character. They're moving around and they're playing with things. So I'm hoping that they will, in all likelihood, be out and about and play. And it's that time of the day that they should be. It's a nice warm sun after a cool start. Often the little ones are there, but I suppose if Ribbon is not back yet, then, or she was there and has left, that's why they're inside. Won't feel confident to be out without Ribbon being somewhere close by. So alas, we shall just keep persevering and keep trying and keep seeing if there's anything around. I am going to go also past the area where Herbie had so many tracks of Shadow and Cub yesterday morning, and just go and check there. You never know, maybe, just maybe, we get lucky and Shadow and her little one pop out somewhere in front of us. You've got to create your own luck, as they say, so that's where we're going to try and head as well. Other than that, I think Treehouse Dam is a good place to go and have a look. It's now starting to warm up a little bit, so maybe the Ellies are going to start coming out and coming towards some water for the morning. And then I think we'll just kind of take a little bumble around and see what else there is. And to finish off later in the drive, I'm going to do one more turn past Twin Dams just in case those leopards have given us the slip and then reappear somehow magically in that area. But I am quite thrilled that, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I am quite thrilled about Taylor's wildebeest herd. So yesterday I saw them on foot and spent quite a bit of time with them, and if we can get them nice and habituated, it is really a nice herd. They're quite big herd, so it would be nice to see them more often. The only problem is that every time the lions walk through here, our habituated zebras and wildebeest end up being chased and being pushed out of the area. So hopefully we won't spend too much effort and then end up just seeing them being vanquished by lions, although I'm not quite sure what those are on Djuma at the moment. I haven't seen lions for quite a while on Djuma itself. In fact, I don't think in the entire time I've been at safariLIVE I've seen a lion on Djuma. Not good. So hopefully we'll start to see them coming back. It would be nice. It's quite funny. I remember a time when the Nkuhumas were here for so long. I think it was like 89 days or something that the safariLIVE team had the Nkuhuma Pride, and they were having lions every day. And I remember speaking to Brent and Jamie. 80, there we go, thanks Lou. And I remember speaking to Brent and Jamie, and they were saying, yeah, no, we're tired of the Nkuhumas, we want to be able to see others because, you know, just for a bit of variety, and it's been so amazing to have them, but it would just be nice to have others and to have hyenas back and to, you know, the leopards to be around more often. And it's because of the lions that the hyenas are gone, and so we would like, you know, a little bit of a break from the Nkuhumas and have a bit more diversity. Well, I told them at that stage, be careful what you wish for, because when the Nkuhumas decide to disappear, it's going to make life a little bit more difficult, and it is not the worst thing to be having lions on your doorstep every single day. I know you don't sleep nearly as much because they vocalize all night, but it really is nice to be able to go out and sort of have that confidence that you're going to be able to find these lions most days. And the sightings that the Nkuhuma provided through that drought period was phenomenal. There were some amazing things that happened, so you know, you've got to be a bit careful about what you throw out into the universe in terms of karma. Now we're paying for it a little bit, I suppose. But the Nkuhumas do this. In the summer months, they very, very seldom spend much time on Djuma. It seems like this is their wintering grounds. They like this area in winter. And it's probably because of the amount of water here, as well as the grasses get a massive break in the summer months, because we get very few buffalo in this area. I haven't seen a herd of buffalo at all since I've been with safariLIVE. We've only been seeing those few males together, so very few actual big herds, and so there's not that much food for the lions in the summer months. But in winter, the buffalo exhaust other areas, so they'll be feeding in parts of the Manialeti, the Kruger National Park, and those areas get absolutely hammered and trampled and eaten away, and this area gets relatively untouched. And so in the winter months, it's a great place for the birds. The buffalo, not the birds, sorry, I just spotted a greater blue-eared starling sitting on the sorry, it's not a greater bluehead, I lie. It's a Cape glossy starling sitting on that tree in front, and that's why a bird came to the brain. But isn't that spectacular? Look at those iridescent colors. Amazing. Now, that iridescence is actually just from the sun. If you had to have a situation where that bird was in overcast, dark conditions, you'd find that the feathers would actually be a more black coloration. So the feather is actually black, and through the preening oils and the way light reflects off them, that's how the iridescent shine comes back at us. But then the buffalo, like I say, come back in the winter months, and they move in and they start to feed on all this grass that is around, and that then brings the inkalhumas back into this area to be able to feed. Now I wonder how my little butterfly chrysalises are doing. Oh no, looks like we've lost some. There is a few new caterpillars, but we've definitely lost some of the actual chrysalis formations, so I don't know what's happened to them. There's not even a casing, so it's not like they've hatched. I don't know if something's come along and grabbed them. That's not good news. But there you can see, those are the one on the right has been there the whole time. Then you see there's one just behind the actual caterpillar. That was the one that we saw as a caterpillar 4 days ago. It is in a chrysalis, and now we've got a new caterpillar that's also here. That's just busy curling and starting to form. Now this chrysalis will start to form from the head, and it exudes from there, and then it starts to cover the whole body, and eventually by this afternoon that caterpillar will look like what you see on the right hand side there. Isn't that amazing? But I'm not very happy about this. I wanted my chrysalis to stay, and so I could see what these actually were when they hatched. So maybe I'll have to come out here and put up a little camera. I did say I was going to do a time lapse, but I keep forgetting, so maybe this morning this has been a good reminder, because I'm quite sad that my little ones are missing. I also be able to then tell who's going after them. Oh, cuckoo. 2 of them. Look like Levailant's cuckoos just flying over, young ones. So I wonder who is their mother, because they, remember, are brood parasites, so they often are in the nests of other birds. It's a shame. Sometimes you'll see robins, which are small little birds like this, trying to feed those massive cuckoos, and it just really makes for a difficult time for them. Now, still no signs of any leopard tracks here at the Treehouse Dam either. I don't know where these cats are, VM. What do you think? Little Gowrie still? Must be, VM. They're lurking. Okay, I like your positivity. We'll find them, VM. If they're lurking, we will find them. It's just a matter of checking the right areas at the right times, and we shall create some luck somewhere along the line. In fact, the last time I actually saw the royals was right here in this tree, which is, I don't even know. I think it was in February. It wasn't even in this month, so sorry. So VM is telling me that my Lou is trying to speak to me, but I can't hear her at all, so I don't know what's gone wrong. There is nothing coming through at this stage. So there we go. I got a bit of a broken message, but apparently Byron is on a termite mound, so let's go see what he's going to tell us about the termites, and remember to ask him about the dating skills.
Good. Excuse me, I'm just going to go live quickly. So we're back, everyone, and I've just found a wonderful termite mound that I'd like to show you. We haven't had too much luck with any wildlife at the moment, and but it's too soon to panic. I'm just going to jump off quickly. For those of you just joining and haven't seen us yet, my name is Byron, and on camera with me is Craig this morning. Now I just want to have a look at this termite mound. It does look particularly fresh, so we might have some activity around here. Let's have a look. And why I say it is fresh is you can see, look at the soil, it's much darker than the rest of the termite mound below it, and this is definitely, I'm just trying to feel if there's any warmth coming out of here. There is indeed. Now these termite mounds, we know they regulate the temperature. The termites regulate the temperature through thermoregulation. All the activity causes heat and warmth to move through the mound, and these chimneys basically allow the air to circulate through. And on a cool morning like this, you can feel the warmth coming out. It's about 32 to 34 degrees Celsius, and you can feel that warmth coming out. But I don't see any termites on the edge of this at the moment. There are some soldier termites at the base of this this little chimney. Let's see if they... Wow, I wish you could feel the heat coming out of this one. This is quite a big hole. Unfortunately, you can't see from that side. It's about this size, the size of this chimney. But there's a lot of warmth and actually a lot of moisture coming out of here. I can feel it. It really is fascinating. I'm not going to disturb these termites. They are a little bit lower down. They're probably sitting about here if you had to see, so a little bit lower down. I'm not going to disturb these soldiers. But that's fascinating, that warmth. Even if you just put your face close to it, wow, there's a lot of moisture and heat coming out of there. Also, always be careful when you do get to termite mounds, because snakes do enjoy living in there. So don't just put your face in front of a termite hole like that, or termite mound. Can hear the button quails calling around me at the moment. Lovely sound. It is a great sound. A lot of birds calling this time of year, which is great. Different birds. Birds we don't always hear. Let me just plug back in here quickly. There we go. So, yeah, we have not had any luck this morning yet with wildlife. But that's the way it goes sometimes. James, speaking about these birds that we can hear and these birds that are found throughout the year and that are resident in this area, you wanted to know, do they change their primary food source depending on winter and summer, or to make it through the winter? I would say some of them do to an extent. Probably eat a lot more insects. Certain insect birds will eat a lot more insects in the summer as opposed to the winter, purely because you don't get that many insects around in the winter. But they are still around, so they'll know where to look for food. A lot of the seed-eating birds would have to be a lot more specific about what they feed on, and they'll have to look a lot harder for those seeds. So yes, they do change slightly, but you're not going to get a woodpecker going and, from feeding on insects to all of a sudden hunting other birds. It's not going to be that extreme, not at all. They'll probably just know exactly where to look to find food. So it's more a case of where rather than what. Where to look for food, and as opposed to changing the diet completely. We did head down to Chitra Dam. As I said earlier, we were going to go down there. Unfortunately, our signal at the moment on Wendy is not doing us any favors. But there wasn't too much going on. There was just the odd hippo, but quite far down in the dam. Nothing really too close. Just want to have a look. Thought I saw something move through the bush, but no, nothing. Let's head over to Taylor, who's looking at those tracks of that male leopard that we had this morning.
Right, look what we've got. We've actually got something quite interesting, something that might be a first for all of you. We're going to do a little quiz over here. Right, we've got this massive track, this big one. I would like to know which one this is. We shall call this track number 1. And then there's a big track over here. We shall call this number 2. And I'm going to put my hand here in the middle. Okay, that's so now hopefully you'll be able to see the size difference between 1 and track 2. Now, if you'd like to send your answers through, hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter is, well, the only way to get hold of us. And then hopefully we'll figure out who is walking here. But these tracks are both very, very fresh sets of tracks. Track 1, I think, was moving around quite early this morning, maybe a little bit before track number 2. But there's quite a bit of excitement here. And I'll give you another clue. We're on Vuyatela access. So it's exciting. And they're both going in the same direction. They're both going sort of northwest at the moment. So who knows what we're going to find. Is it an impala? So there's something walking all the way down the road. I think it is either, it's an antelope of some sort, just past Herbie. I think it was either, it's a common daker, that's what it is. Here's Herbie and the little common daker. It is a daker, hey. Can you see it, Chandra? It's very far away from my eyes. That must be about 800 or 900 meters away. That's really quite far. So I can just see something small moving around on the ground. And they typically slink around quite a bit, the common daker, as well, very shy, not spending too much time out in the open, and they're actually quite comfortable at the moment. It hurts so bad when they bite. Try to keep your composure, but sometimes it's almost impossible. What we need to find right now is either some turpentine grass, or we need to get us some elephant dung. I don't think that there is any hope at the moment for a fly swatter. That is not going to work, so we're going to have to smoke the insects away. Louise, do we have any answers for our tracking quiz just yet? Ah, wonderful. Ooh, okay, good guess from James. James, you said number 1 is a giraffe. You are correct. However, your second guess, unfortunately, was not correct. You said that this is a lioness track. Let me put my hand here again. Have a look. So not quite big enough. Could be a young lioness, a juvenile, but unfortunately it is not a lioness track. That's not the one we're looking for. So take another guess, and I'm sure that they would... Oh, there we go. Ah, John and Kyle, well done. You got the double whammy over there. I don't know if that's the thing, but we'll just go. You've said giraffe and leopard. You're indeed correct. This is a male leopard's track, and it's most likely Tingana's track, just considering the route. And he was going up and down here, so I wonder if he perhaps picked up on Mvula's scent, because remember Mvula the other day was going up and down this particular road, and his scent will be very much still there. We haven't had any rain to wash that smell away, so I think he's going, hey, who has been walking in my area, because I'm going to find you and I'm going to chase you away. Now apparently his tracks cross west to Arathusa, but we'll keep following them. We'll just see what sort of route he took us on. It's quite nice to actually figure out the exact animal pathways that leopards will use, because again, like anything that marks a territory, there are creatures of habit, and they will use routes on a regular basis. So let's carry on. Was it a daker in the road? Was it too much glare? It was quite difficult, but it's actually still up there, so you'll just take a little stroll a little bit further ahead. And you see now we're going to try again. It's still standing on the road. Its behavior looks very much like a common daker. Well, yeah, it is definitely. They went into the light. That makes it a little bit easier to see. You can see that sort of grayish color. And of course, this is the grey or the common daker. And they won't stay out for very long. I'm actually surprised. I'm sure it can hear me. And they haven't got particularly bad eyesight. Their eyesight's relatively good. So I'm surprised that it hasn't seen us and actually run away. It keeps going in the grass and then popping back out again. But there'll be absolutely no chance of us finding it again. As soon as we get a little bit closer, it will dart off quite far into the thicket. Now, Thomas, you're wondering if animals see like us. A little bit different. And obviously I've never put a lion's head on or a zebra's head on, so I can't exactly tell you how they see and what they must see like. But their variety of cones and rods in their eyes are slightly different to us, and they also don't see in color. We see in color. Insects, fish, and some birds can see certain shades of color, but unfortunately most of the mammals out here are seeing in sort of a grayish, white, black, that type of thing. So they can definitely see texture and definition. They're seeing all that type of thing. Whether, and this again varies from animal to animal, whether they can see as far as us or see as much detail as we can, I'm not really too certain, and I don't think there's too many people out in the world that can say for sure they know exactly. And we were actually talking about this 2 nights ago, and I think it's going to be really interesting with the rate at which technology is going and moving forward these days. We might have an opportunity to really be able to see how the animals see at night or during the day. So we obviously read about all these different theories that people have come up with, and well, we tell them to you, but hopefully that will change. Like my favorite example is that entire sleeping article on the elephants and the study that they've done. Let me just quickly get that message from Louise. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to very quickly go across to Byron. He's got something interesting to show you.
Not that interesting, but I've got something to show you at least. There's an impala. Finally we found something. Beautiful male impala. Now, what is interesting, however, is that very soon we are moving into the rutting season. And I've heard 1 or 2 males already doing that snorting rut that they do. They challenge one another for dominance. And then for females, nice to see that impala walking down the road. Let's see what else we can find. But what is amazing is that how these males get so absorbed into the fighting and the rutting. And I mean, it's all about challenging one another for basically a territory for the moment while they try and mate with the females, or for dominance rather than anything else. But they get so involved and they fight that they actually forget what's going on around them, or they just ignore it. And so many male impala are often... Did you see something? What have you seen there? Have you found a leopard for us? No. So many male impala get hunted this time of year, April, May, during the rut, because they'll fight and they lose concentration completely, and so focused on fighting one another that they forget to look around for predators. And that snorting and grunting obviously attracts a lot of predators like lion and leopard, and they'll come in and it'll be a lot easier for them to hunt them. Anna, I'm not sure. I mean, you want to know if the antelope species are able to catch rabies. I don't know. I've never seen a rabid impala running around, thank goodness. but I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I've never heard of it. We'll try and research and see if there have been records. So I'll see if I can get back to you on that one, but I have no idea. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure, and I'm just trying to think now. I mean, you've heard of obviously dogs get rabies. There was that leopard that they feared might catch rabies from eating a dog. So what was it? Sindile? Was it Sindile? Sindile, I think. Yeah, that they basically just doctored and interfered slightly, but again, that's because they had to, because it ate something that it normally wouldn't have eaten, and that's because of man being close to or in proximity of the game reserve. So I found something I would like to show you though. So anyway, so those big cats and that, they get rabies, and the dogs get rabies. I'm not sure about antelope. Now well, I know Tristan and Taylor was speaking about dating advice. So actually, I don't think I'd be very good giving us. However, up in the tree to my right, can you see that cluster of dark green leaves over there? Now that is mistletoe. That is indeed a parasite, a mistletoe, and that is growing up in the branches of the marula tree. So maybe we should start carrying around some mistletoe with us. even though it's only March, but maybe the Christmas tradition of kissing under the mistletoe can work. What do you say? What do you think, Craig? Batman, a man of many words. Craig's gotten all shy now, he's not sure. I'm not sure, Louise. Louise would like to know if it's possible for Batman to blush. Well, he hasn't got his mask on at the moment, so we may see it if he does. Alright, now somebody who doesn't need any mistletoe around him, Tristan Dix. Let's go and see what he's up to.
Well, Byron, I'm not so sure about the mistletoe story. Sorry, we've got spider webs again. Yeah, maybe I don't need it. Who knows? I suppose if you've got a significant other, then it's no need for mistletoe. But we are on Arathusa airstrip, so we are here to try and see if the lions are still around and still hanging in this area. I believe that they were seen, and I see a vehicle here, so I think they are here. Let's just see. There we go. I can see them, and I can see a lion, already one, which is great news. That's good news, Vim. Lions are good. So I wonder how many we've got here. This will be quite interesting to see. Now I'm just trying to work out which way is going to be the best way in. I think let's go around this way. I think that we might have to go back a little bit, Vim, although there looks like a gap. So it is quite thick off the airstrip, and it's because the sun is up. So unlike the other two times that we've seen them on the airstrip where the weather's been pretty foul and overcast and fairly sort of grey, it's pretty warm already this morning. So for lions, especially if this is a male and female, I'm not sure. I saw one female so far. If it is that, then it's going to be pretty hot out on the runway. So I'm sure they're trying to make their way to be able to get some sort of shade. And there in front of us, you can see, is our male lion in the long grass, and next to him is his female. So this is the little romantic couple that we've got here. Now, I'm not 100% sure which Birmingham male this is. It looks like Nsuku again, but I might be wrong. So for those of you that know the lions, if you want to let us know who this is. I can't see very nicely at all. The grass is all in his face and obscuring him a little bit. But it is definitely one of the Styx females on the right. That I know for sure. I'm trying to see if his canine is broken. It does look like it is. Doesn't it, Viam? It is, hey. So is this good old Tinyo? Is it his bottom left canine, Viam? Yeah, and it must be Tinyo that we've got here with this female. So we had Nsuku with one of the females the other day, and now we've got Tinyo, so they've just done a trade. And we were chatting about it actually, and we were saying that females will sometimes mate with all four of the Birminghams in order to be able to ensure the safety of the cubs. But you can see that this boy is hot. Look at how his mouth is open already. He's really starting a slow pant. So he's starting to get a little bit warm. You'll find that what they're going to do is through the day today is they're going to just follow the shade around and try and position themselves in shade, because it's going to be very warm for them today. And anytime the female moves, you'll see that he'll move, and he'll kind of move his head. Oh, hello boy. Just repositioning himself into a terrible place for us. You can see he's almost disappeared now. So even though they've got those big manes, male lions can camouflage quite well even in this long grass. There you can see the female. She's almost invisible. If it wasn't for that little black tuft to the ear, we would really be struggling to see this lioness. These guys are going to be good for hunting in this area, because if they sit in this particular piece of grass, then lots of animals on the airstrip that they're going to be able to then launch an attack from here. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on. Now, I know yesterday apparently they managed to grab a warthog during the day. Malia, you're wondering if it's true if African lions can live in the cold as well. Well, they can. That they don't really like it, so you'll find with them that most of the time they're spending their time in the hot savanna areas and plains of Africa, but sometimes what happens is people have moved them into other parts of the world, so into zoos into Eastern Europe and Northern Europe, and it gets really, really very cold there, and unfortunately the lions then have to deal with it. Now the thing is what happens is when they're in those kind of places, you'll end up with a situation where the lions will get much bigger, thicker manes on the males, and the female's coat gets very, very long to try and sort of insulate them and keep them nice and warm. So I have seen lions that are living in places like the Berlin Zoo, where there is snow regularly, and they lie in the snow and they just get much thicker woolly coats that allow them to survive in that. But it really isn't ideal. A lion is not really designed to be in very, very cold conditions like that. Well, not anymore anyway. When they used to occur throughout Europe and Asia, then there would have been some that would have occurred in colder climes, but now they've all been hunted out, and really the sort of only populations of African lions are all in warm areas. You don't find them in any of the cold places. They don't even go up onto Mount Kilimanjaro, which is probably got the only snow cap that we see where wildlife occurs. They tend to not even go up anywhere near where the snow forms on that area. So they prefer warmer conditions. They are not an animal that likes cold weather at all. Although they also don't like it too hot. You can imagine it must be so uncomfortable to be a big male lion when there is 40-degree or 50-degree heat coming down and very little shade. It must be very uncomfortable, especially if you've eaten. VM, should we try reposition so we can get a better view of these two lions? What do you think? I think so. Because where we are right now, all we're seeing is grass at this stage. Sorry, I was just taking my jersey off there. I do apologize. It's getting quite warm now, especially now that we're stationary. When you're driving, there's still a little bit of sort of coolness to the air, but when you're stationary and in the sun, it's very, very hot. So it's just needed to get rid of that, and we also just need to try and get around this tree because our aerial won't fit underneath there. But if we go this way, we should be perfect. Now, I did see another lioness when we came in, so I'm not sure if the whole Styx Pride is here or what the situation is, but hopefully all of them are here, and the little cubs too. It'd be nice to see them and see how they're doing. And like I say, they managed to catch a warthog during the day yesterday, so they had a good meal at least. Now, just want to slowly edge in here. Tell me when is good for you. Tom, you're wondering how old this male lion is that's lying in the grass like this. Well, he now is probably about 7 years. That's what we think. We're not 100% sure on the exact age, so we can't give you months, but we know that they were in the Timbavati area as younger males in 2013, and at that stage they were looked as though they were about 3-4 years old, so they were still with their pride, and then they left that area and ended up coming up into the Sabi Sand, or down into the Sabi Sand, should I say, and they've been here now for about 3 years, so they would make them about 7 years old. So in the prime of his life at the moment, he's at the age where he's going to be his most powerful, his body's in his best condition, and they like this until about 10 years old. Then from 10 they start to kind of break down a little bit, their bodies start to get a little bit tired, their teeth start to wear, claws start to wear, then younger males come in, and it becomes much harder for these guys to sustain their territory, and by the time they reach 12 to 14 years, they typically are at the end of their lifespan and then passing away. So he's halfway through his life at this stage, which is, like I say, the best years of a male lion. He's territorially dominant, he's got a strong coalition. So beautiful. We don't name all the animals out here because we would have a serious issue with remembering the names of all the impalas. You can imagine having to keep track of thousands and thousands of impala names, as well as to be able to even ID them. But in terms of the territorial animals, they generally are the ones that get some sort of ID. So you'll find like lion prides, coalitions, territorial leopard. They tend to have names, which is more just an ID kit. So it's to be able to work out who is who, where they come from, where their movements are, so that we know that the lineages of certain animals and how that all fits in. And a lot of the research purposes, they need to know different animals to be able to know where they're moving and to monitor their kind of progress and where they're going. The wild dogs also, the packs have names just for the research purposes so that they can know which packs are which and be able to sort them out. So these guys, that's why they get a sort of name. It's not really naming as in this is this animal and we name it like our pet. It's more just an ID name to be able to work out who is who and be able to then follow their progress through life. A lot of the data, even what we see here on safariLIVE, we log on to Panthera. Now Panthera is an organization that had developed the system that you can basically every day upload the sightings that you've had, and you put little pins on maps, and from that they can glean all the data and the movement of these animals and see how they're going and see what environmental changes and how that affects where they move around. So it's quite a good thing to do and quite a good thing to have, and so that's why they have these names. But you can see they are absolutely flat at the moment. It's because of how warm it is. It's not a very pleasant time for a lion. They want to wait for the darkness of night to come back where they can be a little bit more active, although these lions haven't really left the airstrip for the last 5 days, so hopefully they'll continue to stay here, because it's quite nice just to come here and know that they'll be here. Now we're going to stay for a little bit longer, and we're going to see, hopefully we'll get some movement, maybe there'll even be a bit of mating, and while we do that, let's go across to Byron and see what adventures he's on and whether he's found himself some mistletoe.
Well, I've just come across a whole bunch of vultures at the moment. Have a look at this. We've got out into this little clearing, and I don't think it's because there's any food around. Maybe, I'm not sure. You know what, we're not too far from that Arethusa airstrip. Now, I wonder if it's just because there's a bit of water around, and maybe with these dead trees, it's provided a nice place for them to perch for the night, and possibly soon they'll take off and start soaring as the thermals rise and hopefully look for food. So yeah, white-backed vultures. I don't see any of them going down to the ground, and I'm just scanning around. I don't see any sign of a kill or anything. Let's have a look. Alright, but now I have decided to do something different this morning. It's a nice morning. We've been out on drive for about 2.5 hours or so. 2 hours, about 2 hours. Normally what I would do with guests is now's a great time to stop and stretch your legs a little bit, so I think we are going to do that. And also what I do is this. Get the coffee mugs out. And we usually have snacks, and Craig's in a lot of luck this morning because guess what, Craig? I brought us some coffee. So you are my guest this morning, and all of you watching around the world, depending on where you are, I think perhaps now is a good time for a cup of coffee. So what we do on safari is you get out. It's nice to stretch the legs after being sitting in the vehicle for some time, and you can pour yourself, or your ranger normally pours, either tea or coffee or hot chocolate. Craig, you don't have a choice this morning. You are just getting coffee. Craig says, do you not drink coffee, Craig? You can taste that though, maybe. And then and we can stop and enjoy our cup of coffee and the view and allow the animals to come to us. I always say that while we are out in the bush, if you're not seeing much, it's not a bad idea just to stop and enjoy the scenery and allow the animals to come to you. It sometimes works. At the moment, there's just a lot of monotonous larks around, but at least we have got a cup of coffee. So, oh, it's good. Cheers, everyone. Nice cup of coffee. Don't tell anyone else. I think they'll all get quite jealous. As I said, it's great to stop when you are on safari at the lodges and you stop for a coffee break in the mornings or sundowners in the evenings. Don't want to lose my mug here. I think James would be quite jealous about my cup of coffee this morning. So we can let's see how our multitasking is with driving and drinking coffee. I'm sure the ladies in the final control might be a bit jealous too. Alright, well, Taylor's got something smoking. Now, I wonder what that could be.
I'm blowing on some elephant dung. As you can see, I slapped myself silly earlier with all the flies that were biting us, and were biting Herbie and biting Gendre too. And then I tried to hold the elephant dung and burnt it. And then, as you can imagine, because I found some dry ones, a very rare occasion of finding dry elephant dung at the moment, it's actually not as common as you think. And then I found this bit of sort of wood on the ground that had a natural cavity in it. So I thought, well, I can just walk around it, and I just stuffed lots of grass inside, and not grass, all the elephant dung inside, which is mainly made up of grass at this time of the year. And now it is burning around, and I can move it. I can quite easily do this. The wind is quite strong now all of a sudden. I cover Gendre when the flies are biting you. And have you had many flies now? They're still biting you, Gendre? Oh, I'm sorry, I'll have to put it on you more. They haven't bitten me once. I haven't had to touch my legs, not even on one occasion. But there's plenty of evidence that the elephants are around, and I think that they were moving through here probably really this morning. Let's have a look at the different things. Now, the first one is actually down here on the floor, in the form of a quarry bush, which has been pulled off. Actually, you can see, I apologize, my hands are filthy. See how that's covered in, it's not wet anymore, but the sand has stuck to it. So that's from the elephant biting down on the branch and then pulling it off, possibly going for the bark. And then, of course, with the saliva being sticky, it got all this fine sand stuck to it. So that's quite nice. Not particularly wet, though it's still quite fresh. So I think it was probably this morning, which is quite nice. And then the next thing, make sure my fire is still going, is we've got a number of different elephant footprints, but we get to, well, some better evidence. Again, oh, here we go. This is a better one. Let me pull this one up. Trying to hold too many things at once. Here we go. You can see how the elephant has completely broken this branch, then twisted, doing that corkscrew motion. And if we go further down, you'll actually see all the teeth mark. I'm trying to hold too many things. Let me put that down for a moment. Let's have a closer look here. Look at that. Can you see where the molars have actually scraped? You can see the discoloration from the very, very yellow bark. And then you'll see sort of some whiter spots. And that's where the teeth have connected with the bark and stripped this part. It comes off easily. And then they're going for this layer on the inside. So you see it's quite pink in color. That is the cambium layer. And that's what they're eating. And it's nice and moist. So definitely still from this morning. There's actually quite a bit of action going on. Not only is there plenty signs that there was a herd of elephants moving around here at some point. Of course, let me put this back, chuck it off the road, pick up this piece of wood that I want to go. There's also some urine, which is still a little bit wet to the touch. And then, of course, some very fresh elephant dung. There's a couple of beetles and insects that have made their way to it. But the impala are alarming. And it's not just one of them. We can't work out if they're alarming at us or if they're alarming at something else. But they've been doing it for quite some time now. So let's go to Herbie and let's get an update from him and see what he thinks. But this is the direction that the leopard tracks are going. Whew. Where's those flies? And you put it all over me. Give that a bit of oxygen. Herbie, anything? Nothing. Do you think it's for us? Herbie says he actually thinks it's for us. And again, the impala are on high alert at the moment. It's quite thick for them. No, now it's not working. Come. Get the flies off of me. Maybe it's my own hair tickling my face. Let's try to get it going again. But the impala are indeed a little bit cautious at the moment. They can't see our every move, so it is possible that they are just shouting at us. We're going to have to do a bit of a top-up. We have to find some dry elephant dung. Then literally this is what I've been finding. Small patches on the ground like this. And just having to go away, flies. Now they come back again. Smoke you. I'll smoke you with elephant dung. No. There's just one that's an unfriendly fly, and it's going to end up on the underside of my hand if it's not very careful. Surely the flies should be aware of me. I should be a natural predator towards flies now with the amount that I've swatted with guarri bushes and round leaf teaks and the African wattle. My goodness. Right, and well, speaking of elephant dung, elephant footprints, and, well, things that elephants eat, Byron has managed to find the animal that we've been seeing.
I have, Taylor. There was a big bull that crossed the road, and now it looks like a younger male, or younger female, I didn't see properly. Now just crossed the road very quickly, and they're heading off into Simbambili. For some reason they're moving quite quickly, possibly just looking for food. Just going to move off the road quickly. There's a car coming. Afshin! It's some local staff on their way to the lodge that they work at. It's a pity those elephants moved off so quickly. There might be others around. I'm just having a look. Now, I'm also curious now. Taylor has had impala alarm calling around Sandy Patch. I'm not too far from her. So if her and Herbert are able to give me a direction, I'll go in and try and help them and see. Maybe we can find something there. Do you see something, Craig? Ah, more ellies. There we go. Oh, yeah, there are. There are lots of elephant around here. Oh, no. Hang on. It looks like a baby. I'm trying to get there quickly. Sounds like the impala were alarm calling at Taylor. Maybe they were alarm calling at Gendre. He's been away for a while, so they're not used to seeing him. There we go. There's a little ellie here. But the bush is so thick at the moment, they disappear so quickly. But there is a herd of elephant around, and I'm sure this is possibly the herd that Taylor had the signs of. Hoping some more decide to come out, but I think they're just feeding. So slowly moving, not moving very quickly into a specific area. Hang on, one is coming out slowly, perhaps behind us. It might come out here. At least 2 or 3 in here. Oh, there's a rather large one, 2 large elephant. Let's see if we can get a nice view of them. There we go. Craig, is that alright? The light is a bit tricky at this angle. We're looking directly east at the moment. At least we can still see them. Beautiful morning. You can see them flapping their ears, and that's just cooling themselves slightly, even though it is still a cool morning. But I think with the sun baking down on them, these elephant, and those are females that we can see there, but these elephants are trying to cool themselves, so just flapping their ears slightly. We know that they've got a lot of blood that passes through those ears, and those capillaries, or those veins in the ears, basically what happens is as they flap, they cool the blood down, and that blood circulates through the body and slowly cools the body down. Wow, I can just hear branches cracking around us, all around us at the moment. Even though we can't see the elephant, know they're there. See what happens. 1 cup of coffee and things start happening. Let's see, these elephants are hopefully going to move out into the open. I'm going to try and move a little bit closer. Megan, if the elephant tusks, or if the elephant breaks their tusks, they do not grow back. We've seen many elephants with broken tusks, but they don't grow back. There's a lot of nerves throughout that tusk, and once those nerve endings are damaged, but the tusk doesn't grow back. I think there's a point, a small tip of the tusk, that if that breaks or is damaged, that may grow back slightly, but it's a very small section of the tip of the tusk. Otherwise, the rest of the tusk, if it breaks, it does not grow back at all. I'm just waiting now. Let's see if these elephant do come out. I'm hoping they come out in front of us. Here we go. I'll move a little bit further forward. Come on. So they're just feeding on the edge of the thicket here, and but the rest of the herd has moved off to our left. So I'm hoping these all decide to follow. Such a peaceful morning. A lot of bird calls, and it's so nice just to listen to the bush a little bit. See if we can get you to hear these elephants while they are feeding and the noises around us at the moment. Let's listen. So at the moment we can hear Cape turtle dove calling. We can hear the monotonous larks, obviously. We can hear, what else did I hear? A lot of doves at the moment, but then also the elephant moving through the grass, tearing the grass and feeding on it. There's a rattling cisticola going at the moment. Sweet history. Now, the elephants start growing their tusks from very, very early age. I think the calves do get what are known as milk tusks, but you don't really read about it that much, and you don't see them. But they do actually lose those quite early on. But I think you'll start seeing little tips of tusks coming out from 3-4 years old. You start seeing the tips showing. So from a very, very early age, those tusks start growing. But it's also genetic. Some elephant tusks might grow a lot sooner. And we do know that some elephant do not have tusks that grow out. It just happens that they don't have tusks. That does happen at times. But both male and female elephant, or African elephant, have tusks. I know occasionally people think that only the males have tusks, but here in Africa, both male and female grow tusks. But sometimes it can happen where the tusks don't grow out at all. Hang on, here's one elephant close to the road, just off to the left. There we go. There's a lovely view of one right here. And you can see they're enjoying this lush vegetation, the green grass at the moment. Oh, look, there's a young elephant just in front of us. In the tree, look here. It's hiding in the shade there, actually. Very cute. Looks like it was getting a little bit agitated by us, but you can see how that little trunk is trying to break off leaves and branches and feed on the grass, just like the adults do. Probably still learning a lot. Button's cockatoo, I'm not entirely sure of the exact number of teeth that the elephant have, but they've got quite a few molars and premolars. But what happens is, what is interesting is those teeth get worn down over time, and they actually are replaced by a new set. But those teeth, they actually go through 6 sets of teeth throughout their lifespan. So that little one is very upset with us. Look at that, look at that. That is interesting. It sounds like the elephant have 26 teeth in total. I'm a little bit confused by that, but 6 sets of teeth throughout their lifetime. So those teeth then get replaced, and eventually once that last set wears down, that's usually when elephant do reach the end of their lifespan. And if they die of natural causes, that's one of them is hunger. They don't get the nutrients and food. But what a lovely sighting. Nice to see all these elephants around. I may hang around here a little bit longer. Let's head back to Tristan and see what those lions are up to.
Well, Byron, as you can see, very little. The stomach is working hard and the flies are around, but the lions are very sleepy indeed. So we managed to find the female and the cubs. So there's the female lying there, and the cub is just behind her there in the grass. You can see lying there, that's the little cub. It's very difficult to see anything in this long grass. It's almost impossible. And if you were walking around here, you would have to really walk right on top of them before you would see them. And funnily enough, in that little area you can see lots of flies. So that's about the only activity that's happening, is this tummy that is working hard to try and digest this mass amount of protein that's been shoved inside there, and all the little flies that are bouncing around all over the place that are attracted by bits of meat, as well as the fur of the lions. Is quite nice to just sit on and take it easy, and lots of sort of surface area to be lying on. But they will be driving these lioness crazy. Those are those biting flies, so the ones that really aren't very pleasant. And Steph explained it very well the other day, that a biting fly is like, it lands on you, and then it's just this slow increase in pressure that eventually starts to become painful. So it's almost like when you get burnt, there's a delay in the sort of pain arriving at your brain. So the fly lands, and then it just steadily gets more and more painful, and all of a sudden then you realize, actually no, that does hurt, and that's when you chase them away. So it will be probably driving this lioness absolutely mad. Now you can see there's her eye on the right side. It's got a little bit of a cut over it at the moment, so she's obviously had a little fight with somebody, and probably in all likelihood to do with food and competition over a carcass. Like I say, they did kill a warthog yesterday, so a warthog is not a big meal for all of these lions. They would have fought quite a bit over that, and that's why she's got that. Dania, the animals can die from tick infestation. So I've seen giraffe that have been compromised due to like a leg injury, or have some sort of problem with mobility that allows ticks to really get onto them, and them not to be able to go over trees and scrape them off, or be able to move into areas where they can get rid of those ticks. They get a massive infestation of ticks, and then that can cause problems, and they can die from it. So it is possible. Animals with too many ticks most definitely can. A tick has basically a poison in its saliva, and so when it's feeding off these animals, little bits of it and at a time is not really going to affect you. But if you get massive amounts of it being pumped into your bloodstream, it causes a staphylococcus infection, which can be fatal to some of the animals out here. So you find it's normally weakened animals that have some sort of injury that start to pick up high loads of ticks, and the more they pick up, the more the immune system is being punished, the harder it is for them to overcome it. The more ticks arrive, and eventually they get too ill, and they then can't, in the case of predators, hunt. In the case of herbivores, they can't move around enough to get enough food and enough water to sustain themselves, and they then die from it. So it's not a very pleasant thing, but it does happen. But you need thousands upon thousands upon thousands for that to happen. One giraffe in particular that I was thinking about now, I remember seeing it, and its whole stomach and inside of its legs, you could not see any white whatsoever. It was just a black crawling mass of ticks that its legs and stomach it was horrible. And that poor animal had a broken leg, and it wasn't able to move around, and these ticks were just all over it, and it eventually just wasted away from that and passed away and was eaten by lions. But it was quite something to see. Now, I think these lions are done for the day. Surprisingly enough, around them is a male lion and another female and another cub. So you can see there is the hair for that male just sticking through the grass. So you wouldn't expect there to be another lioness in this area as well, but there is, and another cub. So there is actually 5 lions lying in that area, and if you can spot 5 lions in that picture there, I would be very, very impressed. Now, sorry Lou, I did not catch the name of the viewer that was asking about whether the injured zebra was eaten by the lions. Penny Pine. Hello, Penny Pine. Sorry, I didn't get your name the first time round, but you're wondering if the lions ate the injured zebra. Penny, I'm not sure. So I know James had a different injured zebra to the one that we had on quarantine, and it seems both have gone missing. So whether it was the lions, I don't know. The lions, like I say, killed a warthog yesterday. That I know for sure because it was seen, and the people saw the carcass of the warthog. And that's that full belly, but they in all likelihood could have killed that zebra. I have not seen it. I have not seen the zebra on quarantine, and I would imagine that probably both of them maybe have been killed. It's very, very possible. Just remember that there was also at one stage 3 lionesses here, the 2 cubs and 3 Birmingham males. So that particular evening, it's very possible that they got hold of that zebra, because that was the day James saw them. And between the 3 males and these 3 females, they could easily have eaten that completely before we even got there in the morning. And they were very full-bellied the next day, so I mean, it's a hypothetically, it could have happened. We just don't know for sure. I suppose time will tell if somebody finds a carcass or if there's any sort of sign of it, or maybe the zebra reappears. But no one knows for sure if that zebra has been eaten or if it is still alive. But it would surprise me if it is still alive, because generally when zebras have an injury like that, like the one on quarantine or the one here, they typically are very sore, so they don't move massive distances. They try and stay in an area to recuperate, especially an area that's got short open grass and water. They're going to try to stay there as much as possible because that's the perfect habitat for them, and they're able to get the nutrients that they need as well as water that they need to survive. This fighting of the disease and the immune system trying to recover from this attack is going to require a lot of nutrients and water, and so it will be very, very difficult if that animal moves and walks away from those areas. And the only reason it would probably do that is if it was chased again and adrenaline kicks in and it tries to run out of that area. But like I say, they haven't been seen anywhere else, and so you would typically think that they would be somewhere close by in a similar kind of environment, and there's been no sign of them, so I don't think that either of them are alive, to be honest. But you never know. You can never say never until we actually find a carcass or until we see them again. We can't make 100% sure of either. There's very little movement. They found themselves the perfect spot because there's a big marula tree behind us that is creating lots of shade. So there's the marula tree, and the sun is coming just through there, and so this is a perfect little shady part that they can lie in. And so all of the lions moved into this and they've laid down, and I think this is where they're going to try and stay for the day and just follow this shade around. B. Smithy T, you're wondering how hot is it right now? Well, it's about 22 degrees, which is about 78, I think, somewhere around there, Fahrenheit. So it's fairly warm. I think it's actually maybe hotter. 72, sorry, thanks, Lou. It actually feels a lot warmer than that, to be honest. There's a slight wind that is blowing, and that's maybe the wind chill is causing it to come down, but it's definitely not very cold. In the sun itself, and if you're sitting directly in the sun, it's starting to get quite hot. In fact, both VM and I have taken our jerseys off because of it. When we're driving, it's still a little bit cool. Like I say, the wind is quite chilly, but sitting in the sun is lovely and warm, and it's a typical autumn's day. Like I say, the summer is starting to just wane a little bit, and we're ending up with these days that are these beautiful, sort of bright, crystal blue, clear skies. And then this sort of nice sun that comes down, but there is this cooler sort of air that is moving through on the wind, that is cooling it down and not making it feel like the stifling heat of the summer sun. And that's about right time. We are now approaching the 1st of April, which is crazy. This year has gone very fast, but as soon as sort of April comes, that's normally as we start moving into our autumn, or our fall, as it's known as. And we generally have very short autumns, falls, or springs. Normally they're only about sort of 4 to 5 weeks long, and then we go into winter. It's quite an interesting thing in this area. We seldom have long sort of periods in changes of temperature. It goes quite quickly, and you can actually notice it there with that lioness, is that the tops of the grass are starting to just fade a little bit. They're no longer that vibrant green. You see they're starting to go a little bit brown towards the top ends. So this cold little snap has caused the grasses to start changing color, and it's been quite noticeable in the last sort of 3-4 days. The grass is definitely not as vibrant as what it was. You can see most of them are starting to drop seed already. So there's some Panicum maximum, which is guinea grass, and that guinea grass is quite tasty, but it's dropping seed quite quickly. Right, so talking about grasses and seeds and such things, Taylor is still wading through the grasses on her walk, and I wonder if she's got anything interesting for us to see.
I'm still just not being bitten by anything, which is quite wonderful. So I've got my little incense holder for the elephant dung. Now we're just on our way back to quarantine. We did have a very, very quick look around to see if it was indeed possibly something else that those impala were alarming at, but it turns out myself, Herbie, and Jean-Andre today are very scary, and they felt the need to shout about. But other than that, it's actually been a bit quiet. I haven't seen, barring one elegant locust, there's been very few insects. Let me just check this Weltheria. There's a couple of Weltherias here, and I've just spotted some wilted leaves. Go down and have a look. Have a quick squiz here, and sometimes it's really tough. You've got to get so close to see if you can spot anything. See if we can get a spider or something here. But even the spiders seem to be, well, not around at the moment. Perhaps I'm smoking everything out with my little incense thing. No, I'm just burning myself now with little embers that are coming off. Very quiet on the wealth there. Here's a caterpillar. Wondering why we could see. Jean-Andre, let me find the best spot for you here. If I move this grass out of the way, you may be able to see it. It's just in here. You go around there. Have you got it? There. In that leaf. Actually, if you come, I think this other part is. So I've got too many things in my hand. That's the only problem. I need to work out a smaller thing to be able to carry these embers in. But there's a couple of these acrea larvae still moving around in the wealth areas. I think you'll have to come this way. He's in here. I'm just trying to hold this down. Here's a little one. Can you see him just in there? There he is. He's hiding about. Not too many on this one, just a couple. But they don't seem to be growing as quickly as the ones we saw, we watched with James. These ones seem to be slowing down a little bit, and I wonder if it's just because, well, the plants are starting to wilt now as well. I don't think the nutrient capacity is as great as when we were having TV shows and we were getting rain once a week. It might take them a little bit longer to develop, and I think these are the last of the caterpillars that we're going to be seeing now as we make our way into autumn and winter. It's very, very unusual to see caterpillars so late in the season. So I think by, what are we going into now? April, the end, maybe mid-April, that'll be it. And even the butterflies will slowly start to vanish. There'll be a couple, the monarchs are often here, or most of the time. But other than that, it'll be quiet. Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to keep walking. Oh, I saw a big kudu run across the road, but it seems as though Tristan's found some birds, big ones, on the ground.
Indeed we have. So we've got two different species of vulture here. We've got the hooded vulture and the white-backed vultures. So the hooded is the one on the far right with its head down, and then three white-backed vultures to the left. You can see the size difference between the two of them is quite large. The white-backed vulture is a big, bulky bird with that big, chunky beak, whereas the hooded vulture is slightly smaller, much smaller head, much smaller beak as well. That's probably a better example. We can see that one, but you can see, look how thin that little beak is and smaller head, and that just shows you the sort of difference between the two of them is needed, because when you have a carcass, you will have a situation where these white-backed vultures come in and they'll eat big chunks of meat off the main part of the carcass, but there'll still be lots and lots and lots of scraps left over, and those hooded vultures can get their beaks into places that the white-backed or lappet-faced or white-headed vultures can't do, and they're actually the ones that really clean the carcass. They get rid of all those little scraps all along the bones, they clean between all the little bits, and they actually get the most out of it. So they're probably all here due to this carcass, this warthog carcass from yesterday. I would imagine that's why they're here, or unless maybe these lions have killed something else last night. I do see some more sitting in a tree close by, and there's actually even a crow there as well. Now, I haven't seen a white-necked raven in a long, long time, so interesting that they are here. It's not a common thing for us. Generally, the vultures outcompete them, and they really don't get a look in, so for them... Sorry, it's not a white-necked raven. Did I say white-necked raven? I did, didn't I? It's not a white-necked raven. I don't know why I said white-necked raven. It is a pied crow is what they are. I'll try and show you where they are now. Just hold on 2 seconds. I'm just going to go forward a little bit. So there we go. There's the pied crow. Look, it's attacking the vulture. Isn't that incredible? So it was swooping down and picking at the vulture. So the white-backed vulture is having a handful this morning with the two pied crows on top. So the pied name comes from black and white. So pied is often used to name black and white coloration. Let's see if they'll go after this vulture again. Look, there we go. The vulture's saying, enough of you. Stop coming near me. I'm going to peck at you back. Let's see how this goes. The crows remind me of almost like wild dogs with hyenas, is that they come and peck and they cause trouble, and then as soon as this bigger bird turns around, then they all back away very, very quickly. See, look, let's see if it'll do it again. Being very cheeky, these crows. Like I say, I haven't seen crows in a very long time in this area, so to see 3 of them is quite interesting. The carcass must have been quite big. It must have been either a very large warthog, or they definitely killed something else, because to have this many scavengers and birds that eat off carcasses around means that we must have been something quite big. Well, we're going to leave this vulture and let him carry on his fight with our crows, and while we do that, I believe Taylor has managed to find a little baby giraffe, which should be very, very cute.
So remember, we were tracking the giraffe footprints with the leopard tracks quite a while ago, actually. Time flies out here on Bushwalk. But we must have just missed them. They must have turned off of the road to go off and go feeding, or perhaps look for a little bit of shelter. But, well, while we were walking, I saw something cross the road, and I thought it was a kudu, and it could have been a kudu, but I wonder if maybe it wasn't another giraffe, a young giraffe that perhaps got a little bit of a fright. Now, it's not a particularly old giraffe, even though it's standing so tall, and it's being, actually, well, quite comfortable with us, but I can see Mom just off to the right, so that's also another reason. I don't think it's more than about a year old, maybe just shy of that, a couple of months shy of a year old. But isn't it absolutely gorgeous? That is so lovely, and it's always nice because this is one of the things we were looking for this morning on Bushwalk. And we didn't get the leopard in the cars today either. But how nice to come and have a look at this giraffe. And perhaps Byron can come here a little bit later. I don't think we'll be able to get too close to Mom and Calf, but in the cars, it might be a little bit more on the relaxed side. But we are so spoilt at the moment for the abundance of wildlife that's been around, the return of the wildebeest herd, hopefully the return of the zebra herd, the giraffe are coming back again, elephants coming out of our ears, and well, luckily for Tristan, he got those lions too, which is quite nice. So I'm really, really enjoying the bush at the moment. But quiet on the leopards, of course, but, you know, suppose they need a break too. At one point we were seeing them almost every single day and not seeing any lions, so it's nice to have a bit of diversity. I think they must have been walking in circles, hey Herbie? Because if you actually have a look down on the ground, you see their tracks coming towards us. You see them, and then they disappear off the road. So I think they sort of came down. I don't want to move. Oh, we can actually move though, because the giraffe has now moved off of the road, so that's okay. Let's reposition. So it obviously came walking down here, and we see them a lot in this area. Then did a big loop, and then just popping out in front. They could have been watching us the entire time. I find at the moment the giraffe and the elephants are the only ones that can really see above the tall grass, and particularly if you look through here. Look at all this thatching grass that's through here. There's very, very, very little, and I can't even see over the top of that thatching grass. So it's quite nice to be a giraffe. Hello, girl. Now, I don't know what her reaction is going to be to us. She's now not even looking at us. She's looking the other way, which is quite cool. There she goes, about to cross the road. Now, Ryan, you're wondering if giraffe can swim. That's a very, very good question. I've never seen a swimming giraffe before, but I have seen a giraffe sort of knee-deep in water, crossing a river. So they definitely do that. I don't think that they would cross in an area that's particularly deep. It must be quite awkward to have such a long neck. Maybe if they put some moon boots on, and if it wasn't maybe a very strong river, they could probably cross chest high. But I don't know if giraffe can swim. I don't think I've ever read anything about giraffe swimming before, but I've definitely seen them in and around water. Not having as much fun as the elephants, though. The elephants seem to enjoy the water the most, and of course the hippo. But out here, It's not often that you'll see giraffe crossing river systems, and we were chatting about this again. But if you go up to, I don't know, are there giraffe in Botswana? I'm sure there's giraffe in Botswana with all those wetlands, the delta. I know in the Lozambezi National Park, for example, we're getting bitten. I had to swatch Andre's arm for him. I've watched the fly biting him. See, I've now emptied out my little stick because I want it to cool down. I want to put it in my room, and I shall use it again on bushwalk. I will take it out with me. And so I got distracted there, of course. So up there, you'll often see many of the different animals, from the waterbuck to buffalo to giraffe. Everything you can think of yes, they'll go move through the water quite happily. Out here, not so much. We're going to head on to quarantine. Maybe we'll actually see if we can get another view of the beautiful calf and her mother. And then we'll send you back across to Tristan, who is still in the area of those lions.
We are indeed, and as you can see there, that is the gruesome aftermath, unfortunately, of what happened last night. That is what you don't normally see, because generally when an animal is killed out here, we don't get a chance to see much of what happens because it happens in grass. But that is actually the blood stain from where the animals killed whatever it was. That's probably the warthog, although it looks like so much blood, I'm not sure that could be the warthog. And it's amazing, and you can actually still smell the stomach content in this area, and that's why the vultures are probably hanging around. There's the stomach content there, and that's what was left of the grass that it ate. But it just shows you actually how much blood is inside one of these animals, and normally that just soaks into the ground so we don't notice it, but you can see it's kind of spread right across that runway where the lions fed last night. A bit of a gory scene, but it is the way things are. Now also on my dashboard I've just noticed a tiny little insect. You see it? Hello, little beetle. So this is, I think, one of the chafer beetles. I'm not 100% sure, but it is quite pretty. It's got that shiny little gold on it, so it's not just the light. The beetle itself is gold in coloration and is quite shiny and speckly, so I'll try and see if I can get a better idea of it, but it looks like one of the chafers. It's got the right structure and the right sort of shape to it to be a chafer beetle. Now hopefully he'll be able to hang on while we carry on and start making our way slowly back to camp. It's time to get back for a bit of breakfast of our own. Hopefully it will not be warthog on the menu this morning, but you never know. Right, so while we carry on and slowly start to make our way home, let's go across to Byron and see what he's up to and see where he is and whether or not he's also going to be tracking some eggs and bacon.
Tristan, I'm definitely going to try and track something for breakfast this morning, but I just heard a little dwarf mongoose. Come on, let's see if we can find them. They just scurried off into the brush, just off to our right. Sometimes if you make a little noise, like a little squeaking noise, they do come out and investigate. Let's see. There it is, on the termite mound there. Can you see it? There we go, two of them, there we go. See, they do get very curious. Oh, that is great. Very, very cute little dwarf mongoose. These are little ones though. Probably little youngsters. Oh, isn't that wonderful? They're all coming out now to have a look at us. Wonderful. I get very curious now that my tracker friend Judas actually taught me that little trick, making a little squeaking sound, and they do get quite curious, these little dwarf mongoose. This is wonderful. Look at that, they are so cute. That one just grabbed piece of a leaf there. I wonder what he's going to do with that. We do know that these dwarf mongoose enjoy feeding on insects, and I've seen them walking through the long grass and jumping up and trying to catch grasshoppers and that. Oh, lovely. You see, again, just listening out, you pick up on little sounds from little creatures, or any animal for that matter. Oh, lovely to see them. They'll probably start moving out of that little termite mound soon and go and forage for food during the day. Now that it's warming up, it's actually becoming beautiful. I've just got back to the quarantine area, the clearings area. I need to think of another name. I've got to Marula Clearing. Doesn't that sound better? Marula Clearing. There's plenty of marula trees around here. Louise says that's so original. Okay, Louise, we'll think of something more original. Byron's Clearing. Lord Byron's Clearing. We met up with some guests from Sri Lanka that were around the last few days, and they own a nature resort, and they were out doing guide exchange and picking up tips from a lot of the South African lodges to basically try and implement guiding strategies and lodge strategies in Sri Lanka. It was very interesting and fascinating. So they were off to Londolozi today. They were doing some work there and getting tips from Londolozi. But they also have amazing leopard viewing in those areas in Sri Lanka. And they also name certain leopards, the territorial leopards, just like Tristan was explaining to you earlier. So they were asking about a name for a new leopard. So I've suggested they need to name one the Byron male. Let's see if it happens. It could be quite interesting. I doubt it though. I doubt it's a good name for a leopard. Don't think so. Let's see what else we can find. There's some grey go-away birds. Someone asked me the other day to find grey go-away birds. White Lady Erwin, you wanted to know what my tip of the day was. I think today, let's see if those grey go-away birds, they're just up in the tree. There they go. So my tip of the day, I think today would be a tip of a different tip of the day. I think just so we stopped for coffee earlier, and I said, it's nice to stop and stretch your legs and just appreciate what's going on around you. I think when you are on a safari or anywhere actually, so on a safari, if you're not really seeing too much, stop, take a break, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the sounds, have a cup of coffee. But I think that goes for anything really. It doesn't matter where you are. Take some time out during the day, relax, appreciate what's around you, appreciate what you've got. I think that's very important. So that would be my tip of the day for today. Appreciation. How's that? And there's some beautiful flowers here too. While we're on this deep and meaningful conversation that I've just jumped on, there's a beautiful, can you see it over here next to us? Lower down. Those. Beautiful wild hibiscus. I almost hit a blank there. These are wild hibiscus. Lovely flowers. Beautiful yellow with that brown center. The wild hibiscus. Almost hit a blank there. Oh, nice to see those flowers still around. can see some civet tracks from last night. I've walked along the road. Now, remember I said we don't often see the civet, but we see their tracks regularly. Speaking of tracks, I also saw what I think are Tingana's tracks earlier that crossed south. So from where we had them, he did cross directly south through a thick block and eventually came out on the southern our southern boundary on the Gowrie cut line. He headed south into the property south of us. So he walked straight through, but it was difficult to obviously track him through that thick block. I'm going to head towards Djuma Dam quickly. Let's head to Taylor and see what she's found on her walk.
We've got a beautiful herd of impala, and Byron, you just said that we should take a moment out of our day and just appreciate what's around us, so that's exactly what we are doing. Now, you may hear a strange noise in the background because we're back on this open area. We're actually right close to camp, and as you saw yesterday afternoon with the hippos at Chitwa Dam with the big tractor, is that everybody needs to work in between the hours of the guests. So they could be doing a couple of renovations, who knows, but I can definitely hear an angle grinder working very hard at the workshop at the moment, but that doesn't seem to bother the impala so much. I think that they're quite used to hearing strange noises coming out from camp, whether it's people shouting or, well, angle grinders making a strange noise, tractors dragging tires on the roads to try and keep them in good nick, and they become very, very much relaxed. And I think the best animal species that we see that relaxes around the lodges are the Inyala and the bushbuck, which is really, really quite nice. And something that we're not going to see very much of with this herd of impalas, if you look very carefully, you'll notice, and you would have seen, that there are quite a few young males from last year still hanging around with the females. That's not going to be tolerated very shortly because all the big rams are now starting the rut, and they are going to chase those boys out, where they will have to go and join in on a bachelor herd somewhere else. They've got no chance of mating with any females this year, probably not next year or even the year after that. They'll need to mature, get nice and fit, grow those horns nice and long, and learn the ropes of life, well, after being a teenager and heading back into manhood. But it's not a quick process, of course, but it is lovely. And they're not snorting at us either, unlike the other impala, because we're out in the open. We're not hiding ourselves. They can see us. Whereas back where we were, it was very, very dense, lots of guarri trees and silver cluster leaves and all bush willows, which was concealing us. And that's, again, what I said. The biggest thing with general game like this is that don't hide yourself. Stay out in the open. Let them know that you're here. Being so low down on the food chain can be quite intimidating. I don't know if I would trust anything. If I was an impala, I'd probably run and snort an alarm and do all sorts of things if that were me. What is that? More impala. I can actually hear them. It's a bizarre noise, but there must be another herd of impala behind us in the thicket, because I can just hear the little ones sort of talking that strange noise that they like to make, which I'm not going to intimidate. What's wrong with me? Intimidate. Because I say the most bizarre things. My goodness. Yes. Louise is not having a good laugh at me. But you're all no surprise, me muddling my words out, and well, that's just one of those things, I suppose. And as long as I'm making you laugh, even if it is at my expense, that makes me happy. Well, we haven't seen Tristan for quite some time. Let's jump onto the back of his vehicle and find out what he's going to try and show you in the last couple of minutes of the show.
Well, I'm not very sure actually, Taylor. I'm just bumbling around. Maybe I should do some intimidating of my own and find something to intimidate. Maybe not. Taylor's going to hurt me, I'm sure. Don't want to get on the bad side of Taylor. Thanks, Lou. Lou gave me a little drum roll there. Thank you, Lou. Very kind. But no, we haven't seen much. We found tracks now of a male leopard, which I would assume is Tingana. Very fresh tracks, funnily enough, going into Arathusa, but it goes into the most delightful bush that you've ever seen. Absolutely lovely. It's open, clear, you can see for miles. Not really, actually. It's horrible stuff. It's long grass, black monkey orange, zebra woods. In fact, the worst place possible for a leopard to go. But I haven't noticed this before, which is quite interesting. This is I'm going to reverse back a little bit to show you this. So, VM, if you look on your left side here, you will see, look at this very defined path that's going through the bush. Now, in this area, we have had no hippo activity. There's no tracks for hippos, there's no nothing. So normally a hippo is what creates this path, but this has all been created just by elephants moving from Treehouse Dam, which is south of us currently, and then moving up towards Weirtella Camp. So this is just repeated movement of elephants alone that has made this, which is really quite something. Generally you find that it's more the hippos that create paths like this, but these elephants have really made quite a big one in this area. And this is the kind of thing that we want. We want game paths like this going into the winter months. You find the animals, even now in summer, will jump onto that path, and it becomes much easier to track animals. When they walk in the long grass, it's almost impossible. You're not going to see a track, you're not going to see any sign of them. But as soon as we get game paths developing like that, the animals are like us. They like to walk where it's open and clear and they can see what's going on, and they don't have grass hitting them in the face, and it's just a lot more comfortable. So also the movement on the pathways causes the soil to be disturbed, and you get nice soft powdery substrate, and it's much easier then to follow tracks on that soft powdery stuff. So really cool to see that the Ellies are starting to create these paths now through this long grass, which is going to aid in our tracking process and how we're able to find animals over the next little bit until the winter really kicks in and it gets dry enough. White Lady Owen, it depends on the part of the reserve that you're in. So some people do cut the grass back and keep areas shortened. It's a sort of old school thought that if you cut certain areas because of the lack of bulk grazers like buffalo in the summer months, that you're just helping with keeping certain areas in the right condition and the way that they should be, and promoting the growth of the right species of grass, and that things like zebra and wildebeest will then spend more time in those areas. But generally, as you can see, all of these areas here, there will be absolutely no cutting or mowing of any of this grass. This will all just die back naturally. So if you had to have taken a picture here in October last year and you compared it to now, you will not even recognize this place. It doesn't even look like the same area. There was not one blade of grass anywhere here. It was all just dust running through this area and trees with no leaves. And then now you can see after a summer of rain, this grass has all come up, and we've ended up with a situation where we've got quite lush green grass again. So it will all die back naturally, and as it's dying, so animals are feeding off it and trampling on it, and eventually it all just gets sort of compressed down and it goes into that winter sort of look that we had. But last year was a very extreme sort of difference. Last year was the worst that I've ever seen it, and funny enough, we were looking at clips the other day and we saw that it's actually, looking now, you can't believe that the bush looked the way it did. It was completely barren of any sort of life. So quite amazing how quickly it bounces back. Now, talking about bouncing back, let's go across to Byron, who's slowly bouncing his way back to camp and is at Weirtella Dam admiring the scenery.
Yes, Tristan, I am indeed. There's a lot going on here, actually, which is great. There's barn swallows diving down and drinking water, actually. That's what they're doing. Amazing to see them flying and swooping down like that. But it's very difficult to focus on them, as Craig is seeing. However, there's also, just further back there's some Egyptian geese, and then white-faced whistling ducks, or white-faced ducks. Always nice to see them around. And if we go further left, there are hardy-dar ibis looking for food on the water's edge. There they are. And then just a little bit further left, there is a terrapin on that log. You see, there we go. There's a little terrapin sunning itself. And then a beautiful brown snake eagle up in the tree above them. So there's a lot going on here. There it is, sitting right at the top. Wonderful brown snake eagle. It's been a good morning. It started to pick up for us, especially towards the end, the last hour or so, since we had our coffee. A lot of elephant. We saw a few warthog running past, a lot of impala. So it's been a really, really fantastic morning. I hope all of you have enjoyed it. Great to see those mating lines with Tristan. Thank you to Louise and Megan in Final Control. It was great having the voices in my head, as always. Thanks to Taylor and Tristan also out, and the cameraman. From Craig and myself, hope you've had a wonderful day or morning. We'll see you this afternoon. Don't forget for our afternoon safari. Goodbye, everyone.